This is this between us.
The number one podcast in the world.
This is the JBU.Show. Featuring Austin from the Miller Talk Podcast. Allan, the American Sincerist. And hosted by Cam Allen.
All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Chris, and this is the JBU Show. And joining me today, of course, is my host from the Miller Talk Podcast, Austin. And we have a special guest today. He goes by the name of John. And this is actually an episode of the Miller Talk Podcast that we are continuing from a while back, about a month ago now. That is kind of a debate between basically a conservative and a more liberal-leaning person. The first part of this episode, I forgot to ask Austin before I did this intro which episode number it was, but if you go look at the Miller Talk Podcast and look for the special episode with John or John Ivory, you will find it. So, obviously, I'm not going to be hosting this, but I will be streaming it, so you won't be hearing too much from me today. But we're gonna switch over here in just a second. You can see that I've got them muted here so that I can do my intro. And we're gonna switch over here so he can get started with that. You can find John at IAMJOHNIVORY on Threads, and don't forget to check out the Miller Talk Podcast, MillerTalk_pod on X, and MillerTalk.substack.com. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get over here. All right, Austin, I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, so welcome John in today to the Miller Talk Live and JBU Live. Today we're going to be doing a little debate discussion, and we're going to start off with immigration because John brought it up to us before we started, and it's always a hot topic. So, John, you want to start off with giving us like your position and everything on this?
As far as immigration?
Mm-hmm. The immigration enforcement.
Yeah. I feel like my immigration perspective is pretty common sense. But the politicians, opportunistically play on what people actually want, which is they want a country with borders. They want it to be enforced. Now they want a legal process and an accounting for who's coming into this country, and that type of thing. But when it comes to what is actually in effect going on right now, I mean, there's a huge backlash against what the Trump administration is doing as far as enforcement of the policies, because in going after these the criminals that are being highlighted as the poster people for this policy, unfortunately a lot of other people that are not described as people who are violent criminals, those are not the ones being targeted because they're just going after whoever they want, basically. And so, there's a huge backlash. There's people who have worked for ICE already, acting as whistleblowers and, putting their, their opinions out there. They have nice little bonuses. There's all types of stories. People who have signed up to work for them. I don't know if it's because of Doge, cutting staff, but just lots of incompetence, very different ICE than what it used to be anyways. But when it comes to border policy itself, people who are, I feel like if we made a law that said any undocumented person who committed a violent crime needs to be deported immediately, there's just nobody who's going to disagree with that. But unfortunately, for what I feel like is the predominant conservative narrative, the number of those people is just not actually as high in the millions as they would like to believe. And so with that comes an unusually high like quota type system, get 3,000 people a day, and it's just not realistic. And so it leads to the policy we have here. But like I said, if you polled every American, I feel like if you ask them, hey, the people who got here that are undocumented, if they committed a violent crime, would you want them out? Everybody would agree. And that's where the conversation seems to begin and end with those people. But like I said, like there's plenty of other people who get caught up in the crossfire as well. And many of them are American citizens. There's priests that got, tear gassed, and 87-year-old couples, and just, it is what it is, with all this new activity, all this funding they pumped into it, people are, trying to address an issue. And I just feel like, the American public is at a point where like, okay, like now we're just doing it for the shock and awe. We're doing it for the social media to just show us that we're doing something, but in reality it's causing a backlash. And that's really what it is for me. But that's it.
Austin, can I as the moderator here, can I jump in real quick and before you respond?
Yeah, sure.
I think that you guys before we continue, I think you guys should kind of separate this conversation on immigration just a little bit. So John laid out his position on it. I think you should lay out your position. So let's separate the kind of like current events with ICE and put that aside for a second and just focus on where you guys are at on like the actual immigration policy itself first. That way we don't go too many directions.
I kind of get what you're saying. But for the most part, this administration ran on mass deportation. They did not run on just getting the criminals out. And I get that, yes, the polls show us that overwhelming majority of people agree with deporting violent criminals. That's very common sense, like you said. But just because we're prioritizing violent criminals does not mean that we're not also going to get everyone else that is here illegally. If they go into a house where a violent criminal is living and he happens to be living with other illegals that are not violent criminals, they're going to get them too. But I think that we're not doing enough. I think the numbers need to come up even more. But I realize there's a couple of hurdles that need to be jumped through in order to get to that, because of the amount of resistance, like you mentioned, that is happening in Minneapolis, LA, Chicago, New York, all these places. It's causing ICE to have to slow down. And I think more needs to be done. That's my opinion.
All right. Austin, I'm going to ask you first, and then we'll let John respond. What do you think the policy should be regarding the people that have been here for a long time? They're generally speaking law-abiding, other than, of course, being here illegally. And should they be deported as well? Should they have a path to citizenship? What exactly would you be looking for as far as that goes?
I think my policy would be exactly what the administration is doing right now. Self-deport, and you get a chance to come back the right way and get a path to citizenship. But if you do not self-deport and we find you first, then you get no chance of coming back.
Okay. John, what do you think about that, about the people that have been here long term and are generally speaking law-abiding but not citizens? And then feel free to respond to anything else he said as well.
I mean, yeah, I would like to then explore the notion that the people who are here undocumented, in the act of being here undocumented, I want to know like exactly what the negative impact of that is on our country. Like, I want to hear exactly in what terms, because I want to isolate the problem, because it would seem like these people are just a net positive as far as our society goes, as far as economics, as far as the actual crime stats, who's committing these things, because they're incentivized to not be violent because they're here illegally. They don't want to get in trouble for the most part. But of course, I want to isolate the issue, because to me, like, the immigration issue, like, I feel as far as like a country with its own sovereignty and borders, there should be one, and I feel like the people who violate should be deported. But then, why the animosity for everybody else, to the extent that we're willing to trample on the civil freedoms of people who actually live here and were born here? I don't understand the backlash that's so bad that it's like, okay, well, they came here illegally, so that let's trample over like tons of American citizens just to make sure that we can sometimes get an illegal or two. Like, we're talking about like stopping at Home Depots and rounding people up and tying up little girls and people. Like, there's a certain extent to where it stops being about, okay, we have borders and we need to enforce that, and it starts being about, let's be cruel to these people to make a point. And I want to know where we actually are with that.
I think the left's doing that. I think the left is being cruel to make a point, because if
The
they
left
would
is
just
being
get
cruel right
out
now.
of the way
The
and
left
let
is the
ICE
ones
do their
being cruel
job,
right now. Is that what you
yeah,
said?
they're out there,
Okay. So
getting in
how
the
are
way
we
of
being?
ICE
How is
enforcement.
the
They're
left
trying to
being?
arrest rapists. They're trying to arrest murderers. Yes, not all of them are
They're
rapists and
trying
murderers,
to
but the
arrest.
people they're trying to arrest
What do
have
you?
warrants.
You said that they're trying to arrest rapists. Are you talking about Democrats still, or are you switching to ICE now?
No, ICE is trying to arrest rapists and murderers, and the left is out
Why are
in
you
the
speaking for
street.
ICE overall? Like, it's not like a hodgepodge of bunch of people that they found that were willing to take the job. I mean, you work for ICE, right? Like, you've been part of immigrations before, right? Like, you've been
Yeah,
part of the.
I've
Yeah,
worked
so
at immigration facilities.
you can't speak to everyone in that organization and their motivations for taking that position. But you're saying they're trying to find criminals. So does that mean that all I need to do is find one example where they're not trying to find a criminal, they're just being belligerent and causing trouble because they feel like they're in a liberal state
What do you mean
and they
by
need to
that,
fix
being
things?
belligerent and causing trouble?
What do I mean?
As far as I'm concerned, they're just
Okay,
doing
for
their
example,
job.
if I'm an ICE agent and I decide that I'm just going to throw tear gas into a moving vehicle with a child in it, what would be the how would I get the violent criminal in that instance?
Okay.
What would be my reason for doing that?
Hold on one second before you
stopping
respond to
him?
that, Austin. So I'm not sure if you're referring to a specific situation, John. But if we're going to
Yeah.
if we're going to look at things like that, let's make sure they're specific situations. I can try and pull them up for you guys.
Okay.
So
Give me
so
a
that way
second.
we're not trying to operate on theoreticals.
Okay, give me a second.
No problem. Because I think
'Cause,
one of the
I mean,
problems here.
I don't wanna
Go ahead.
speak for you, but it makes it sound like you're trying to say ICE is just happening to throw tear gas into crowds or into a vehicle, that there's no provocation whatsoever, and that they just did that. They're just, instead of going to arrest illegals, they're like, let's just throw tear gas into crowds of protesters. That's what I feel like you were trying to say. So I don't want to misspeak for you.
According to reporting from ABC, children were playing on the monkey bars at school moments before the officials threw tear gas canisters from a white SUV. Okay. I think what I can't get over is the indignation, like the fact that I'm really getting back is like, it's impossible that people have not become megalomaniacal, like they haven't become like over what's it called when you're high on power? What's it called when you don't have any accountability and you can do whatever you want? I forget what is it megalomanial. I forget what it's exactly called.
Like
But
a
you mean to tell me
megalomaniac.
that when the vice president gets out there and says that they have complete and total immunity, that these people that we oh yeah, by the way, there was a one data point that I did need to look at. Hold on a second.
Mhm.
I think. Well,
Because I believe ICE relaxed its hiring standards. They're actually hiring people with criminal records themselves. Hold on a second.
I'm not sure about that specifically. I know a lot of police
It
departments
depends
have.
on the criminal record.
No, it was something crazy. I was like, what the fuck? Hold on.
I will note that when ICE is hiring a mass amount of people and
Yeah, Christian
standards
Nome
have been
under fire for
adjusted.
hiring criminals as ICE agents. They're trying to get anybody they can. There was one lady that signed up to work with them and she didn't even show up for the interview and she got like acceptance letters and
So-
shit. Like they automated so much shit.
Yeah, and we
They-
covered that on the show. We looked into it a little bit, and you can't entirely verify what she said as far as she did show up. She did a one-person interview, and she claims that she didn't fill out some of the paperwork, but she also, her prior job to this was working for the military, so the government already had background checks and everything on her, and that may have been a factor. ICE, according to their statement, of course, we can only take each side's word, that she was never hired. She was told she could move, proceed to the next step in the hiring process, which is true. We can't really say, but
Mhm. Okay, all I know is that I have eyes, and it's telling me that if you're just firing people from agencies without even paying attention to who does what, like they literally did that, and then hired a bunch of people again because they realized that they can't just out and fire people. But if you literally do that just as at a macro level, and then you start scrambling to like put the pieces back together so you can actually do the things you want done, how are you vetting these people that are doing this job? Because the Proud Boys have been quiet, all those white supremacist groups have been generally pretty cool. And so you're deputizing this already like, antagonistic like force to go out to places like Minneapolis and, do what they're doing and be mission focused, but at the same time, like not really getting to the mission, because the mission is supposed to be dealing with people who are illegally here. And like I said before, if that means that you have to trample over the rights of American citizens,
Well,
I don't even
they're
know
just
why
standing in
Republicans
the
don't even talk
streets.
about
They're not trampling
whenever we
over
talk
rights.
about this stuff, they never want to talk about the American citizens that get fucked up in it. Like they only want to talk about the illegals, but it's like the American citizens are the ones that have the issues with it. So like if you don't change anything, I mean you can think what you want, but if you don't change anything, the policy is going to change because they're going to get thrown out. I mean unless they rig it, but there's like I said, there's a huge backlash independent of what anybody here thinks about it. And I think that the reason why is because we're not focusing on the violent criminals that did get highlighted. Like, yeah, mass deportations, but when they say mass deportations, it's based off of that fake news number that there were like, yeah, it was like millions of immigrants that came over the border, which nobody can verify because the evidence is that we can't verify it. And so we just take that.
The verified
yeah.
number, and this is the one that the left, generally speaking, I know that's a broad term, but the one that the left, generally speaking, agrees upon is about 7 million people that came during Biden's administration. That doesn't include who was already here before that, and that doesn't match the 20 million that Trump said, but it's about 7 million over the course of that 4 years, and some of them were turned around, and some have since been deported, of course. But that's how many came in during that time. that is at least agreed upon.
And to be clear, like Biden, there was a border crisis with Biden. You know, I never not agreed with that position. But like you said, like that's a huge difference. Like if you're making policy for 7 million, that's one thing. If you're making policy for 20 million, that's a completely different thing, and it leads to a completely different result.
Well, we should also
like just the idea of keeping the policy where it is so short-sighted and boneheaded. Like even if you really believed in the mission, it's gonna fail if that's what if you really want to behave like it's a $20 million a 20 million number, but it's only about 7 million or somewhere in the middle.
We should also note that prior to Biden getting into office, the agreed upon number was that there was roughly 20 million people living illegally within the United States. So that would put the number, if you include the Biden administration, at 27 million. Which might explain where Trump got 40 million from. Obviously, that's still an exaggeration, but that was the generally agreed upon number as far as how many were here total from all of the years up until the Biden administration. That was when they were talking about
so many times with so many data points.
When they were talking about DACA, when they were talking about the DREAM Act,
even question that much.
When they were talking about DACA and when they were talking about the DREAM Act, they were talking about 15 to 20 million people that were in the United States illegally.
Okay.
And then during the Biden administration, from what I've read, the agreed upon number was about 7 million came across the border total. And again,
so
that doesn't mean that
we agree that we need to get 3,000 illegals every day? We need to somehow, how are we going to do that? Like feasibly, how is that going to happen? Give me a way that happens and you don't trample on any American citizens' freedoms.
How do you come to
well,
the
first I would like to
number?
I'd like to know where that number came from first.
I don't necessarily disagree. I'm just wondering where you got that number.
The number is supposed to be Stephen Miller's, deportation, or his the minimum that the quota that he had. Let me see.
That would be about 1 million a year, Austin. And I haven't heard that number specifically, but that seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, it's 3,000.
Okay. As far as getting to that number, I mean, it would help if,
because like I'm not even of the perspective that I can change. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, obviously, but at the same time, like, what do the people who really believe in this? How do they think they're going to get there? Is the question I always ask, because it just doesn't look like anybody's serious about getting there. So that's why I was asking. It just looks like they're trying to like make themselves look bad. They're trying to make like themselves look like cruel, evil Cretans. And then they're trying to make themselves like seem like, we don't see this the regular Americans getting fucked up. We're just gonna keep talking about these illegals like American citizens don't live here and they're not suffering from this shit too, because ICE is just, they have a bunch of untrained people, I guess. They have unexperienced people doing stupid shit. Supposed to be on watch and you fucking passing around a flask and all these it doesn't make any sense to me that if you really believe in this stuff and you see the backlash against it, I mean, do you feel like tomorrow people will just change their mind?
I think the ideal situation is that that as many people as possible take the option to self-deport with the option to come back. That would be the ideal case, and so far about 2.5 million have. But outside of that, what choice do we have besides to send a law enforcement agency after them to deport them?
I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't have an issue with that.
Do you expect that they're not going to try and run and fight and that they're just going to turn themselves in? That we've already given them the option to turn themselves in for $2,500 and a free plane ticket, and they didn't take it. So if they're not going to take that, they're obviously not going to just stand there and give up just because ICE came to arrest them, which is there's always going to be some level of friction. And I don't think there's any way to avoid that. The only way to have avoided it was not to let everybody in the first place, but that's already happened. So this is where we're at now.
Okay, so what do you feel like needs to be done? Hi, buddy.
Well,
what do you think they should do now? So you're basically
Minnesota
saying that their policy shouldn't change, like from where they are right now?
Essentially.
I
So
would
other
say,
than Minnesota
yeah.
specifically,
Okay.
everything's been going just fine. In virtually all the other states.
Other
Now, I'm
than
not
Minnesota, everything's been just fine.
there was, the issue in Los Angeles for a short period last year. That seemed to have, they seem to have worked that out, and that was fine. I know that, the last couple days they've been upset again, but that wasn't even because of ICE necessarily. That was ICE hasn't changed anything that they're doing in LA. They just decided to go after an ICE building because of what's going on in Minneapolis. So that's entirely an agitator situation, not an ICE situation. But in the rest of these states outside of Minneapolis, ICE is going to primarily courthouses and taking transfers from prisons. The problem in Minneapolis is Minneapolis refuses to do that, as well as some of these other deep blue areas that claim they're sanctuary cities. They won't give them illegals that were arrested on a separate crime, and that forces ICE to go out in the community and find them. And that is where all this friction is happening, because you have people that are angry that this administration essentially won, and now this is
Because they
being
murdered somebody,
enforced.
they immediately went into defense mode and were like, "Yeah, he's a domestic terrorist," and they had to retract all this shit. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I
hard
agree
to
that that's not
remove
okay.
your mind from these images. I'm sorry, but like, you want us to look at this isolated, but like, if I know the administration has a certain posture and a certain tendency to just lie as a reflex, then how can I trust this policy? Like,
so it was the same person in the
you have to have
administration.
you have to have
both
the
times.
consent of the governed. You could try to bash the hammer and say, I have executive this, and extend your power as far as you possibly can, and get your cronies to argue the fact. But
was the
at
winning
end
of the
day,
election
like, if your own
not
supporters
consent?
are seeing that the Second Amendment is being trampled on, it's hard to maintain that position.
Okay, so maybe
It's hard to maintain that position.
Go ahead,
majority of Americans voted for Donald Trump.
Majority of Americans stayed home, bro. To be honest. And if we want to talk about why Trump won, if you want to,
so that means
he won. Yeah, of course, he won popular vote. Yeah, he won, and he won popular vote, so he gets
we need
that.
to let democracy work, and that means a majority of voters wanted this. They wanted mass deportation because that's what he ran on.
Yeah, but politics isn't like a moment in time. It's not like the moment in time that he won in 2024 encapsulates this next 4 years. People are clearly feeling different about Donald Trump today than they were before. You know, it was standing against Kamala Harris, and people made a decision. This is not some grand mandate, even though we try to make it seem like one. People just wanted to go after, people who are seen as a stain on the society, people who are, making this place worse. But for me, I mean, I'm a person with pattern recognition. Like, obviously, the problem in the society isn't the broke people working jobs that nobody wants to do. Like, obviously, the problem in society is people tilting the scales too far to the rich, acquiring politicians like chess pieces, and manipulating us, and playing with just the overall perspective to where now we can't even talk about basic things because this is a trope, that's a trope, so you can't talk about that because that's a trope. But if it's really happening, why the fuck can I talk about it? I feel like it is a major distraction, because if we look at the economic impact of people who pay into a system and don't get anything out of it, who the fuck is getting free healthcare? If y'all saying like illegals are getting free healthcare, I mean, I guess regular Americans, where can we get free healthcare? Who's getting free healthcare out here? Because from what I know, the insurance system is a scam overall, and we're not fighting against that. We're deciding that the free market will decide how much insurance should be, when honestly I don't feel like insurance should be fucking bought or sold in the beginning in the first place. But I'm getting all over the place now. Back to immigration.
It's all good. But
if you're really about the mission, you really need to convince people, because the people who voted for Trump, who agreed with him at that point in time against Kamala Harris, they are not all on board. I'm telling you right now. You don't have to believe me, you don't have to believe numbers, but when people start talking about Texas is flipping, when start talking about certain counties that are plus 20 Republican are going blue.
Yeah, but they talked about Kamala Harris having the backing of the Democrat Party
talking
too.
about, we rigged it, or we rigged it, or they stole the election, because like Trump is literally asking for voter rolls. Like he's literally asking for those in Minnesota right now. So
I wish you wouldn't
listen,
go back to
it's
that,
a lot of
but-
projection. It's a lot of projection. It's a lot of I'm gonna accuse you of doing what I know is going on. But you know, like I always see it.
All right, John.
Democrats are useless.
All right, hold on.
Like, this shit.
Let's back up just a little bit. I think that first it's worth noting, or it's worth saying rather, that you know, you're right that politics is not a single moment in time, and if people are upset about what this administration is doing, their next opportunity to change what is happening is in the midterms, which is of course coming up later this year. That is the next opportunity for the people to have their voice heard. But let's take a look at, because you were just talking about the kind of economics of why we are concerned about immigration in the first place. So let's take a look at that, because I think that there is a lot of misunderstanding on both sides as far as why conservatives are concerned about immigration in the first place and what the overall economic issues are, as far as that's concerned. Austin, do you want to do that, or would you like me to?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So you mentioned insurance first and foremost. So illegal immigrants are absolutely, and so here's the first problem actually, is when we're talking about illegal immigrants, there's two major categories that became one under Joe Biden. And this is where all of these technical terms are used to manipulate the storyline. So you have regular illegal immigrants, which are just people that cross the border. They didn't check in with anybody and just came in the country without technically anybody knowing and are working under the table completely. That's what we all typically think of when we think of an illegal immigrant, right? Or the term illegal immigrant. But asylum seekers became illegal immigrants under Joe Biden because Joe Biden changed a policy, not a rule. President can't just change the law, but he just changed the policy where Border Patrol no longer was denying asylum claims for false reasons. And so basically what they were doing was allowing people to come in. They ran to a Border Patrol agent instead of away from them to claim asylum, even though they had no right to claim asylum, because asylum it's part of a world treaty that we signed on to with several other Western countries. There are very specific rules that allow somebody to claim asylum. One of those rules is if you're going to claim asylum, you have to do it in the first country with which you arrive. For most people, that would mean they would have to claim asylum in Mexico, not in the United States. But of course, they don't want to do that. And so their asylum claim is already invalid because they're not claiming asylum in the first country they came to, or the first country they fled to, you know, from wherever they're leaving. Second, there are some strict rules. You have to be persecuted by somebody in your country, specifically for your race, religion, etc., in order to claim asylum. And so the vast majority of these illegal immigrants were not eligible for asylum at all in the first place and never would have been allowed to claim it in any year prior to Biden. But because they changed that rule, it allowed them to claim asylum. They can now stay in the United States while their asylum claim is being heard, meaning going through the courts. And, eventually the court will hear the case. They'll see that they don't qualify for asylum, and then they'll issue an order for deportation. But basically what the Democrats were banking on is that we'll be back in power and we'll be able to just forgive, either open the rules further so that they can be accepted under asylum, or just forgive, grant amnesty, or whatever the case is. The goal was just to get them in the United States and keep them here for as long as possible. That's why you hear about, 5-10 year backlog on these asylum cases and stuff. But so we now have a large number of people that they're not illegal immigrants because they're waiting on an asylum claim, but those asylum claims are not legitimate. So they'll never be approved to actually stay here anyway.
Okay, that was enlightening. I appreciate the explanation there.
And so the reason that matters though is because they will then say that, illegal immigrants are not getting any government benefits. That is simply not true. Most of the people that have claimed asylum immediately were put up in hotels. They got $5,500 a month between food and housing benefits,
Are you
as
talking
well
about
as
New York?
cash. Well, there's New York, but there's several other places as well. And then
We've heard of that
most
in,
of
like,
these people
state.
qualify illegal, whether they're asylum or not, they qualify for state benefits in blue states. And those state benefits are paid by the federal government. And so they're
Which
claiming
states are
they
they? Do they
can't get
qualify
federal
for
welfare. My
for
state,
those
for
benefits?
my state, for example, Washington, an illegal immigrant can go and get on state benefits, EBT,
EBT,
healthcare, and
healthcare.
housing benefits.
They can get healthcare in Washington for real?
Yeah. Yeah,
Washington
there's
State
no,
or
they
DC?
don't check the social security number, and even if they have a spot for it on the form, they just write down a random number.
In Washington State?
Yeah.
And somebody has done this before, like made a
I
random number.
I know people that are on insurance that are not here legally. Well, I have known, I should say. I don't actively know them now.
Huh.
And it's something that,
Yeah,
it's
there's those holes in the system that we were talking about. There's people.
it's like an open secret type thing where they don't advertise it. Hey, illegal
No,
immigrants come get health
with
care.
any size system, you're gonna have a certain amount of waste. Yeah,
Well, sure.
it's just a huge system. Yeah, it's just
But the question
so
is, but the question is, where can we minimize that waste where possible? And I think that illegal
see,
immigration
that's the
is
good
a
question
clear
to
place.
ask. But it seems like this administration is just into making shock porn. Like they're just into like, look how evil we are. See, look how good we're doing with this policy. See, we're tear gassing this couple who's 87 years old. Like, look how good we're doing. Like, and people are like, yeah, they're really working out hard out there. I mean, they're putting their lives on the line. Clearly, and it's just like, no, we want the people out of the country that shouldn't be here. But my approach to it wouldn't have been to just fire a bunch of immigration judges, because I feel like that would make the process slower. And then there's the elephant in the room, which is the contingent of people who not particularly interested in any of it. They just want less brown people in the country. There's that too. And it's just
I've
like,
never
okay,
met
let's
one of
pretend
those
those people don't exist. Let's just pretend that it's a 0%. When in reality,
I don't think it's
is,
0%.
I don't know what percent. I don't know what percentage it is. But
I don't think it's zero,
Those
but I've
people
never met
definitely
one.
exist, but I don't think they have a big enough voice. That
you don't think they have a big enough voice, bro? You don't think they have a big enough voice, bro?
No, I think just like the radicals on the left, they're a small minority that is very loud.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans don't have anything holding them together except racism.
Social medias, but I don't think they actually.
No, what I'm saying is like Democrats.
Significant amount.
Democrats are held together. But Democrats are held together by identity issues. They're held together by neither party wants to address the economic issues really. From my perspective, this is just my perspective. So obviously we may disagree, but neither party wants to address the economic elephant in the room. That's why wealth equality keeps getting worse no matter who's in power. And the right, the left just has identity issues holding it together, but I don't see what holds Republicans together except for this vague notion of nationalism where the rich have more and more and the poor have less and less, and we're just just cruelty to immigrants. I don't see what else is holding it together, to be honest. I don't know, because when I look at
how
what
are
people
conservatives cruel to immigrants in your eyes?
So what up?
In your eye, from what you've seen, how are conservatives cruel to immigrants?
I mean, after knowing all the things that the ICE is doing right now,
but you said they were doing those to American
that,
citizens.
there's a greater good out there that needs to be found by trampling on more American citizens born in the country, people who have their papers and still getting picked up, and because they get credit. So is it true that they're getting credit? They're still giving credit for people they pick up even if they have to return them?
What do you mean getting credit?
Yeah.
like each agent, supposed to get credit for bringing in people. There's a quota that's supposed to be hit.
So that quota
it
thing
looks better. It looks better for your numbers to bring
right,
people in, and even the people you bring in, if they're not if they're actually American citizens and you fucked up, it's okay because you still get credit for that.
So that's all speculation. The idea that there's even a
Wait,
quota
wait.
has
How is
not
it
been
speculation
confirmed
if
because
there's people who work for them and they're disclosing the stuff?
Okay, but who? Do you have a name? Because when
I
the
mean,
problem is the media will
if I
go and
said
report
if I
these
said roofie
things.
poopy fart, like if I said roofie poopy fart, right? You're
Okay, but
telling me that you're
okay, so
not
let me explain.
you
Let me
don't believe
explain.
an anonymous tip, basically.
Not if you want to be taken seriously in 2026, because I can
Okay.
go and write an article right now that says an ICE agent told me that they're supposed to bring in 500 white people a day. Who's going to tell me I'm lying, or who's going to tell me I'm wrong? Unless I have a name to give you to prove that I even know
I mean,
an
we would have
ICE
to see the
agent.
policy. We'd have to see who's getting picked up, right?
Exactly. And ICE says there is
Okay.
no
So it's not
policy
it's
that
not
is that.
those
Their
white people. So that's
policies
how we
are
would
on
know.
their website. Their policies are on their website, and that policy is not there. These are claims that the media has made, and the only proof they offer
You're telling
of
me that
those
they haven't.
claims are
You telling me this
unverified
administration hasn't lied
sources.
before? Are you? I mean,
No,
I'm
I'm
just
not
supposed to
saying
trust
that.
that?
I'm
I'm
not
supposed to just
saying the
trust that their
administration hasn't
policies,
lied.
the policies that are on their website are all the policies they have. I'm
What
supposed
I'm
to just
saying
take
is
that as
if you
a
want me to trust you that what you're saying is correct, give me the name of a person that is willing to say, yes, I know this is true. You can't just expect me to believe it because it was said. That's what I'm saying. Because you're right, the
okay.
administration does
So
lie,
the
but so does the media,
so the
so
name
does
provides
everybody
an extra
else.
layer of what? I mean, the name provides an extra layer of what? If
We
at
can
this
prove
point
that
you
they
don't believe it's
actually
true, then
we
what
can
would the name? How would the name like change that for you?
we can prove that they actually would have inside information. We know that they worked for ICE and would have that information. And putting your name to something is it is a guarantor. Yes, some people are completely shady and their name being put to something means
There's
nothing, but
there's
it
people that
means
lie all the
something.
time. Like they said, there was this huge daycare fraud with the Somali stuff, and that shit's been busted since like 2 years ago. It was just like an old story, and he. So yeah, you can
Well,
put your name on. That's why I'm asking. Like, what is putting your name on something? Like, I understand that it's like I'm stamping it. There's there's more credibility
you do
to it.
know
Granted.
you do know
But
that
if you're you don't believe in whistleblowers, like that's what you're telling me. You don't believe whistleblowers.
no, I'm not saying I don't believe in whistleblowers, but the point of a
But that's exactly
whistleblower,
what you're
the
saying,
point
though.
of a whistleblower is to go to Congress, our representatives, and to snitch on something the government's doing.
Not
And
necessarily,
yes,
no,
we
no.
might not
Whistleblowers'
get that
point is to
name.
expose what's going on in government, covertly trying to protect themselves while still divulging the information. It doesn't have to be to Congress.
Right, but if you're
Whistleblowers
not
talk to
okay, so
journalists.
let me add this then. If you're not going to put
Okay.
your name to it, that's fine because you need to hide your identity for protection or whatever. There are many
Yeah,
reasons,
they're a
right?
source. They have
But
information. They want to keep providing the
you
information.
need to corroborate that information somehow. You cannot just go into a
Yeah.
court of law and say, I believe this happened and have it accepted. You
Mhm.
have to have proof to back it up. And if you're not going to, at the very minimum, put your name to it so that we know you have some reason to have this information, then provide the documents, provide pictures, provide something that proves what you are telling is true. Because right now,
Mhm.
everybody lies. And so without something
That's the fucked
better,
up part is just like I don't feel like everybody is lying though. Like I feel like people are trying to tell the truth, but it's like I'll talk to
okay,
some
but how do
people
you determine
and
who's
I'm
telling the
having a
truth and who
conversation
isn't?
about people who are born in this country or people who their parents were born in this country and they just happen to be the wrong shade and they're getting treated a certain way, and it's a show your papers country now, and it was never that before, and now it's all of a
During
sudden
COVID.
that.
But why
And
did
it's just
it get
it's
like
with
that?
COVID. Well, with COVID, at least with COVID, nobody was asking for your papers. Like you weren't walking outside and they're like, "Oh, where are your papers at?" Like it's
I
not.
did.
That, I understand the sentiment being made there, but you have to admit, like you, white people under COVID were not living like Spanish people under ICE in 26. That's not even anything like that. But the sentiment is there with "Don't tread on me" sentiment, which is why a lot of people are mad about the whole like what's his name, the Preddy kid, the guy who had the gun and stuff like that. Because obviously, him having a gun doesn't mean that one, you're supposed to just take it from him for no reason, and two, after the gun is already taken from him, how the fuck are you shooting him 8 times? Like, that shit is insane. Like, obviously,
I can tell
and
you
he
our
got his ribs
perspective on
broken, before the incident and stuff like that. So, it would seem like, I don't know, he had a target on his back, or
What do you
maybe
mean
he
he
should
got
have
his
not
ribs
stuck his
broken
nose
before
in
the
it or
incident?
whatever. But I don't know.
Where did you
Very
get
strange.
where did you get
That's-
that he had his ribs broken before the incident? What do you mean by that? Are you saying that ICE
So
beat him up before this?
he had a run in with ICE. I believe it was like a week prior.
Right.
Um,
With you talking about the
where
video where he kicks the taillight out
dude broke
and
his ribs. No, not that same video. It was like a week before. He had a run in with ICE prior.
oh, so one that
Uh,
wasn't videotaped and we have no proof of?
the video, well, it shows in his medical records that his ribs were broken prior. But if that's
I
what you
haven't
want,
seen that.
but well, that's cool. You just
But, yeah.
I'm not saying you're lying. I'm
But I
just saying
mean,
I never saw
know,
anything with medical records.
look,
I'll try and
that's not
find it
even
real
like
quick.
About
that's not even a bombshell in there. I mean, that's not the point I was really trying to make. I mean, yeah,
I
but
get that's not the point you're trying to make. But
yeah,
I was asking because I hadn't heard that before. That's why. But I can tell
Yeah.
you why, from our perspective, we're not upset about Preddy. I mean, we're not
Okay.
happy that a man was killed. I
mhm.
I assume Austin, you feel the
Oh,
same way.
hopefully not.
But it especially after knowing that he had been out there agitating for days, chasing these ICE agents around. You don't think that they took
He was
that into
chasing them?
consider? Yeah. You watch the video of him go and kick the taillight out, right? You've seen all of these videos of them coordinating to track ICE vehicles, many of which aren't actually ICE vehicles, but that's beside the point. To track ICE vehicles
Yeah.
and show up anywhere they are in order to warn illegals to hide. That is interfering with a law enforcement action. You notice these things aren't happening anywhere but Minnesota because Minnesota is where the leftists are doing this. And so, as far as Preddy specifically, though,
Mhm.
I agree that it was not, a perfect example of police procedure, right? And I agree that if this was a different situation where Preddy was, walking down the street and some police officers were dealing with an arrest over here and he just stopped to film, from the background and they just came over and started screwing with him, like it seemed like at first when we only saw the first video, then I would probably agree that this is a big problem. But when you see the whole video and you see that Preddy was actually over there screwing with them before they came after him, and when then they came over and the one ICE officer that shoved both of them, I don't agree with that. I don't think that was the right thing to do. I understand why
Both of
he
them
lost
being
his
him and the
temper,
woman?
but well,
Both of them?
he shoved Preddy and then he shoved the woman, and then Preddy
Okay.
grabbed him, and that is what got Preddy. That's what they attempted to put him in handcuffs for, because you can't grab an officer. We all know that. And I'm not, whether that's right or wrong,
No.
we all know if you try and
No,
grab an
that's not-
officer, you're going to get arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, I
We
just
also
my
know
brain
that-
is just still on, like, you shot the dude in the back 8 times.
Well, I'm
Was it
getting
8?
there.
Not,
I'm getting
not
there.
10 out of, like, I don't, it's not computing because what you're saying isolated makes sense.
Well,
It's just I'm putting the full picture together.
okay, but hang on. So we all know if you put hands on an officer, you're going to be arrested.
Mhm.
And whether
Mhm.
that's right or wrong, that's just true. And we also know that if you try and fight with an officer, one, you're going to lose. And two, that officer has no idea what your intent is. All he knows is that you're resisting arrest. He doesn't know if your intent is to resist and run away or to resist and kill him. Both have happened many times, every day, basically, to officers all over the world. They can only go with what they have. Now, they're trying to fight him down on the ground. He's continuing
the 2 officers that unloaded the 8 shots feared for their lives when he was in handcuffs.
They have him. He wasn't in handcuffs, so he was down on the ground. There's like 6 officers that are trying to arrest him, but he's still fighting with them. He's still swinging. He's still reaching around. They see the gun on him, and the one officer grabs it. But at the same moment, it is literally 0.7 seconds from the time that officer grabs his gun to remove it from him, and another officer sees it and yells gun, and the first shot is fired. 0.7 seconds. Any reasonable person in that time is not going to be able to process all of that information. We have the benefit of being able to rewind and watch it over and over in slow motion from all these different angles. The officer in the moment doesn't have that ability. They already know that this guy is an agitator, that he's following them around, and his intent is to harass them. Not necessarily to hurt them, but to harass them. He's fighting with them. Now they know he has a gun. All of that is all of this information is being processed within, I think it was, I want to say 7 seconds, but now it sounds like I'm conflating the two numbers. The whole altercation. But it was less than 15 seconds, right? The whole altercation. As far as the amount of times they shot him, that's standard procedure, not just for police, but for anybody that has received firearm training. You shoot until a threat stops.
That's standard procedure, bro?
Yes. Yes, you shoot until a threat stops. If the person is still moving, you keep shooting. And the reason is...
You know how insane you sound from going from this man is apprehended to he is a threat that needs to be put down? He wasn't apprehended.
He never had cuffs on him. He was still fighting when the first bullet entered him.
They were so scared of a man that was on the floor already that they had no choice but to execute him in cold blood.
How are they supposed to know that he's not trying to grab that gun that he has? I understand an officer took it,
not be psychos, not be scared little girls who have all this training apparently. But
that's easy to say, man. That's easy to say. But if you're not the one fighting the guy with a gun,
I guess the step-by-step breakdown of what you would have done in that situation.
I guess the training is to find people with such low emotional intelligence that they see things moving and they feel like they want to murder someone on the spot.
Trained combat veterans and
why don't they shoot people every day? If that's the
two people who killed him were not damn sure weren't, because they revealed the identities of the two. So who are you talking about?
You talking about
that's
the two
what I had
Mexican
heard last
men that
was
shot
all
him?
The officers involved in that
definitely weren't decorated veterans. The two people who actually fired the shots, though, were they were dudes from Puerto Rico. They were, oh my god, they were two Dominican. Oh, they were two Spanish sounding.
So they weren't racist, is what you're saying. They didn't just shoot him because they were racist or because they wanted to deport Mexicans.
No, they were high on their own supply. They were like, we have total immunity. We could do whatever we want. So yeah, he fucked with us. Let's put him down. These people are defended. These people will make excuses for us.
Maybe after being chased around by these lunatics for a week and not being able to get sleep because every time they go to a hotel to go to bed, lunatics show up and start banging on pots and pans and breaking into the lobby and throwing shit around.
So people are voicing their
then every day when they go out, and then every day when they go out to work,
there's no accountability.
And then every day when they go out to work, they got somebody screaming in their face.
We cheer. Like when you guys get the bad guys, we cheer. But when you guys get like the person going to work on time, you're picking up people from these fields, so now they can't pick the cotton anymore.
Whatever the fuck it is.
Like when you guys go after the people who keep their head down in society and just work, like you have to understand that like you're gonna get more than just illegals that are against that program. Like obviously you're gonna get the vast majority of regular people against you. So it's a uphill battle, is really what I'm getting at. Like it doesn't really matter what I think. Personally,
that goes back to the question I asked you in the first place.
Laissez-faire when it comes to that, but
that goes back to the question I asked you in the first place, which is, do you expect them to just give themselves up? They have no choice but to go and arrest them.
I mean, if an administration is really going to tackle the policy seriously, like there's so many things that I would not have done if I were the Trump administration, because it all starts from the very beginning, like the messaging, the intention, like obviously cutting all these, getting rid of all these immigration judges sends one signal. Telling Democrats that, telling Republicans not to sign on an immigration policy because it'd be better for my election prospects if I decided not to close the border, or it would be better for these calculations that are made.
That's not exactly how it
they
happened.
matter to me, though. They actually matter, though. Like, as far as how I see it, because I have to trust the intention of the administration.
Do you see how to us, every time we get into the specifics of any of these things, you keep jumping to something else because the specifics don't quite line up with the perspective?
The specifics here are: a man was on the floor, and
with a gun.
It was like how many police was it? It was however many. Two men decided that he needed to die because they both panicked and they both needed to kill him. That's the perspective.
He had a gun and was fighting with them. We can't leave that part out. He had a gun and was fighting with them. No, it wasn't in his hand, but he had a gun and was fighting.
He had a gun. So he had a gun. So what? You can have a gun in America.
Yeah, you can, but you also shouldn't fight with a cop if you have one, because the chances you're going to get shot are incredibly high.
If a cop starts hallucinating and just starts seeing that a dude is reaching for his gun, I mean, I guess it's a wrap. Then we shouldn't have cops anymore.
Okay, but that's not what happened.
That's where I'm at with it.
That's not what happened. I would agree with you in that, but that's not what happened.
They were struggling with him on the floor, and therefore they had to shoot him 8 times. 2 men. And
they were fighting with him to get him arrested. And one of them yelled gun, and so 2 pulled out their guns and shot him. Yes.
I don't agree with the situation. I do not agree with the way that it went, but it's what happened. And under the circumstances, I do not think the officer should be held liable for murder or anything like that. I think it's just an awful situation. It's an accident, and it happened. Under all the circumstances, I don't.
When I come back, I'm going to come with specific cases. I'm going to come with specific cases of just like ICE doing evil shit, and we can debunk every single one of them. You can tell me you don't believe every single one of them. I'm talking about on the outer perimeter of this policy being pursued. On the outer perimeter of this policy being pursued, there are these little like cracks in the system, the same holes in the system that show up when you have, healthcare and you have people in it, and things like that. The same things that are occurring there, they're happening in ICE as well. And I can find them. I just don't have like specific cases right now, but when it comes to that, I would love to come a lot more prepared. That way we could litigate the specifics, because to me, they're pursuing a policy that in idea and concept, I agree with.
But if you're
not going against the people who are violent, then I don't support it.
But what you're asking for is
made a good
perfection, and that's not going to happen.
Nobody's made a good argument for why I should support, deporting people who are not violent.
Okay. I'll make that argument right now. Why you should support deporting illegal immigrants, whether they're criminals or not.
Okay.
So you made the claim earlier that illegal immigrants are a net benefit to the economy. That is true in the long term, 20 years plus. In the long term, if they continue to stay in the society, have children that grow up in the society and stuff, yes, that will eventually be true. In the short term, it is very expensive. And there is a big difference between immigrants that come here illegally and make no guarantees, are under no obligation to swear an oath to the United States or to be part of this country, versus legal immigrants who do swear an oath to the flag and who do agree to give up their previous ties to their home nation and become a part of this nation. Now, as far as the actual costs, illegal immigrants pay about $150 billion a year in taxes. Okay, through various, through gas taxes, things. It's not necessarily direct payroll tax, but it's through various taxes. They pay about 150, but they cost about $450 billion a year. And the Democrats always leave that number off. They talk about the number that they bring in, but they don't talk about the cost. And so that means there's a net negative cost every year of illegal immigration. And this is not including the cost of securing the border and of ICE and all of these other things that we have to pay for in order to go and find illegal immigrants. It's 3 to 1, 450, about 450. I'm using round numbers, but it's roughly 450 billion to 150 billion.
So they cost. What do you mean by they cost?
So that's through the welfare programs, and through using the
Okay, so wait,
healthcare
wait.
system,
The
whether
okay,
they have
the welfare,
healthcare or
the
not, they're able to go to the hospital and get treated without the ability to pay,
Mhm.
just like anybody else is. And that's what
right.
they use for their primary care while they're here, even if
So you're
even in
talking
states where they
about
don't have
you're talking
insurance.
about you're talking about people that we can't account for,
What do you mean?
or like when you're talking about illegals and you're talking about a specific number of them, that's where I get lost as far as like the cost that they have. Because how did we get to that cost number if we don't know how many are in the system?
Well, it's an approximate, right? It's an estimate. I can bring up. If you give me a second here, I can bring up
Because if we
where
come
I
up with
got those numbers
taxes,
specifically
it's
from.
because there's how do they come that brings me to my next point. How the fuck did we come up with the number of taxes like they contribute? That's a I have
That
no
is a good
idea.
Very
question,
hard
but that
one.
is what Democrats cite all the time is 150 billion.
Mhm.
It is, and I don't actually know. Yeah, I'm actually gonna look that up on my own
If they
time. But
are paying income tax, they would be doing that illegally too through Social Security fraud because they don't have Social Security numbers in order to register with the W-2.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well, fraud is not a crime when you have enough money. So
So
whatever.
that is hang on here. I think I have the number I'm looking for it's from the Congressional Budget Office.
Mhm.
I'm looking to make sure this is the one that I'm citing. 5.9 billion, Social Security, yada yada. Okay, but what's the cost? Come on now. Sorry, it's hard to read through this and
You're good.
also think just to add on while you're
yeah,
both kind of
please
sitting
do.
there looking things up, um, I just believe that a lot of these illegals that are here just working jobs, laying low, like you said, not really criminals or violent in any way, they're also just not, it's not fair to them for them to come here and work illegally. I believe that if they want to live in America, they should get all the benefits that America truly offers, like a minimum wage, like, um, you know, employee health care and benefits and retirement, all
You
these
really
other
believe that though?
things.
Like, do you really want people that are like? So do you? Is your only? So do we only have an issue with them just because they were born somewhere else? Like, is it
No.
the accounting needing to account for them? Is it that they drain our system? Is it like what is it? I'm just trying to understand because
I
if you're
want
saying
full
that
accountability,
you sound like
and
me
I
right now. You're
want
saying you want them to be. It sounds like we have the same position on that, but then it's so different at the same time. It's just that's what I don't get. Because would you be for getting rid of so many immigration judges? Like, would you have seen that as a productive step
Au-
forward? Is that something that you would not have changed?
Austin,
Because that's something that Trump did. I
Austin,
don't agree
he
with
got
do you
that.
want me
rid
to
of
play
immigration.
Austin?
Hmm.
Can I play that video that we watched the other day on the show? It was like 6 minutes. The one talking about bringing in the legal immigration every year with Gumball.
It's kind of long.
All right, never mind. Whatever. I just figured it might explain to him what the position was, but um, it generally speaking, it's not immigration that either of us have an issue with. We're perfectly
Okay.
fine with the million plus legal immigrants that we bring in every year, which, by the way, is more than every other country on earth combined every
Well,
single
yeah,
year. What we have a problem
yeah.
with is people that are entirely ignoring the legal process and coming in illegally. So they have no problem breaking the law. They've already done that by just coming in illegally. They are net cost to the system, which I have a number here. It's not the number I originally cited, but it's one that I can cite now, so I'll tell you in a second. But they're a net
Okay.
cost on the system. They are not. They don't understand American values as far as individual liberty, the Constitution, and how we became the nation that we are. Despite all our flaws, I still believe this is the best nation on earth for a reason. And if we don't try to protect that, if we don't try to continue that, then we're going to become like the rest of the world. These people are fleeing the rest of the world for a reason. They're coming here for a reason. And if we're just allowing anybody to come in with absolutely no,
and we're the only safe place, so they're coming out
right,
here.
but if we allow them to just come
in South America, and we did certain things in South America, and they're fleeing because those governments are taking hold. The governments are basically shells to provide value to the United States.
well, that's not entirely true. There's China, there's Russia. I'm not saying we've never done anything overseas.
I'm talking about South America.
No, I know. What I'm saying is there's China and Russia as well that are screwing around in the world, as well as Israel, as well as some European countries. There are many countries that are screwing around in the world and causing problems. We're not the only one.
Yeah, we're just the biggest player on the board, so we have our hands in every pot. We have military bases in every country. We have like 3 military bases around every country, and we just can't. No other country can really say the same. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, but no other country takes in.
About that.
So no other country takes in 1 million legal immigrants a year either. No other country donates anywhere near the United States citizen, independent from our government, donates more money overseas every year than every other country and their government combined. Every single year. Nobody else does that.
You're looking at averages, and that's how it's going to be because we have the most rich people. I mean, that's our rich people are the richest in the world.
And why are we the richest in the world, though? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm saying.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Because we got really good at hoarding wealth. We got really good at concentrating wealth to the top. And so when you look at the average, you don't notice that the bottom keeps getting lower, because the overall number keeps going up.
I grew up dirt poor like a lot of people did. And we still had...
everybody has a nice little antidote, and I'm not a cry story. I'm not a crybaby either. Like I'm actually, I score pretty high. I got an IQ of like 145. I'm people, my family loves me, whatever. But ultimately, it's not so much us. And we have a responsibility as individuals to make something of ourselves and whatnot.
The poor here in the United States, we still had 2 cars. I still had a roof over my head. We still ate every single day. That is not anything like the poor in China or the poor in even Europe. The average European makes half, or actually it's almost a third, what the average American makes. Despite the fact
but there's
they
like
supposedly
third
have
world
superior
areas
values.
in rural America as well. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like
grandparents grew up in a shack and riding horses everywhere.
It's not like
now the point of me 3 generations down from that, driving a car comfortably and living in a house with air conditioning and heating.
Yeah, man.
My point
there's
even
upward
the poor
mobility here.
Good.
That's why people come here, because there's upward mobility. There's the prospect of it, rather. And everybody is supposed to be able to get a shot, and the shot is getting harder to hit as time progresses, and that's what people are crying about.
Do you think maybe that shot is getting harder to get because we've allowed 20-ish million people over the last 20 years into the country to take that shot next to you? Do you think maybe that's part of it?
Who's taking the shot from me that can't even speak English? I don't get that part.
Well, first of all, many of them can speak English. But aside from that...
but with the accent, like you can't work in the capacity in the industries that I do, like in communications, and anyways, like that whole thing
but
of
they
like
all
the
live in
immigrants gonna steal
houses,
your
right?
job, just not gonna. It just doesn't hit. I'm sorry, bro.
Okay.
But when it comes to because
So
the immigrants
hold
gonna
on,
steal
hold
your job, like
on.
the guy who's working at Home Depot, the guy who's like sweating all the time in the construction hat, like he's gonna take my job, bro. Like that's who's gonna take my job.
What, white people don't work construction? Is that what you're saying? Or wouldn't work construction? My dad's worked in construction his whole life.
what I'm saying that I'd be hard pressed to believe that white people will be willing to do every job that an illegal immigrant is doing. That's just not true.
Yeah,
We
if
were
it
doing them
came
all
to
before
it.
that.
I work a
Nah, because
job right now. I
they
work
weren't
after
getting paid
heat,
shit
long
for those
hours.
jobs. So y'all are just yapping. Like you wouldn't have gotten paid very much for doing
Yeah,
those
because
positions.
illegal
It's a
immigrants drive the
wash.
wage down.
It's a
If
wash.
somebody's
Like,
willing to do
what are
it
you
for
talking about? You're just
less,
saying, yeah, I would take the job. Yeah, okay, you would take the job. But for what? For pennies?
right? But listen,
If that's
To make a
right.
if
point to
somebody is
someone?
willing to do it for less, then the guy is going to hire the person willing to do it for less. If that person isn't there, they have no choice but to pay a higher wage. So you see how that drives the wage down?
Mhm. Okay, I have a question. So you're saying, we've kind of been talking about the benefit of immigration.
Mm.
Who do you think illegal immigration especially, benefits more? The billionaires that you don't like so much, or
Mhm.
the middle class? Who do you think benefits
I
more?
mean, it definitely benefits the billionaires just to have more people, right? Just to have more
At a
people in
cheaper
general
wage.
to exploit. Yeah.
Well, and
Just
people willing to
in
work a
general.
smaller wage too. They're able to pay them less. They don't have to give them the same benefits. They don't have to pay the payroll tax on them. It seems to me that this is it's the next closest thing to slavery that you can give the billionaires.
I agree with all that.
So then why would
I
you
agree with all
support
that,
that
yeah.
system? Why would you
See
support
what?
that system? Why would you
Why
support
would I
these people
support that
being
system?
taken
I don't support
advantage
that
of?
system.
Okay, but that's part of what we're talking about is ending that
Mhm.
system. Part of that is getting rid of all the people that are
Oh,
here
so
illegally.
you wanna end that system by going after people who are born in this country to maybe find them under the floorboards?
Nobody that
Like
was
that's what
born
we're
in this
that's
country,
no, but
but the people that weren't.
it's okay. There's the mission, and there's the thing we have to do to get the mission done, right?
Okay.
If we want to get, if we want to hit the numbers we want to hit, how are we going to get to those people without trampling on the rights of everyone else? That's what I'm trying to understand, and I still can't
They
understand.
did it for
they're not
decades
citizens,
without
so-
trampling on anyone's
They're not
rights.
doing it in
Pretty much
2026
recently.
or 2025 either. They're not. They haven't been doing that though, right?
I don't understand what you mean. Like Austin said, we've been doing this for 250 years. If we want to go back that far, as far as going and finding illegal immigrants in the country and deporting
I'm not
them.
talking about border policy. I'm talking about this new thing that was invented like less than. Well, it was invented when George Bush became president. This very recent thing that people
No,
are
no, no.
acting like it's
ICE
just
was created then,
impossible. Like
but
this,
we had immigration
necessary
enforcement
component
behind
of
that.
American life. It's
Hold
really
on,
not. It's
hold
just
on.
police for border purposes.
ICE was created in 2001. The actual department named Immigration and Customs Enforcement. But we had immigration enforcement prior to that. It just had a different name.
Yeah.
It was just a
Yeah.
different part of the
Name of it.
DHS. We've always
but the
done this.
policy is so much different, and the policy is not the same. It's not the same policy anymore. I mean, they're not doing the same things.
They are, though. That's what we're saying. They're doing exactly the same thing. The only difference is the people that are agitating against them now. That's what's
So
causing all the friction.
they had unmasked men hopping out of vans, kidnapping people.
They weren't masked because there weren't people that were trying to hunt them down
Why weren't they
constantly.
masked? Why weren't they masked?
Because there wasn't people trying to hunt them down constantly.
Why are
I'm
people
not
trying to hunt
particularly
people
me-
down for ICE?
let
Why
me
are they
be
trying to do
clear.
that today? Like why are they trying to hunt ICE people down? I'm
Let
trying
me
to
be
understand
clear.
this.
I don't
Why are they
support
trying
them
to
being
hunt people
masked.
down?
That's a
Would you say
great...
I'm saying, why would they hunt them down?
Yeah, why would they do that?
Because
Why
they're
are they
opposed
doing
to
that?
anything that
A
Trump
majority
does.
of the ones they're hunting down are
So they've been
rapists,
opposed to Trump. They've been
murderers,
they've been
people that already
a
have
Trump
warrants
for
out.
like 8 years now, but they just decided that I have a murder streak.
Trump wasn't in office 4 years ago. And 2 of them took a shot at him, right?
Actually,
So
12
it's not like
years.
it's
It
the
was actually
first time
12
they've
years.
done
So
something.
they begin. Well, he didn't have to be in office for people to be against him, but nonetheless. So for
Sure.
12 years they've been against Trump, and they just not got a murder streak. That's what we're saying.
No, they've been doing all kinds of different things. Right now, it's about going after ICE. But before that, what was before that, Austin? I'm trying to think of what the thing
Pretty
was
sure,
before ICE. It's always
deported so many
something.
people, and people generally just didn't give a fuck because he was doing it in a way that was
He was doing it
generally
in
humane.
exactly the
He's
same
doing
way.
it Trump is doing it exactly the same way Obama is.
So like you realize like
Obama
how
actually
limiting a
caught
word
on and-
you realize how limiting a word exactly is. Like I can literally just find an example and it won't be exactly, right? I mean, you can't say exactly the same policy. Obviously Trump is
Okay,
doing something
I can
different than
explain
Trump.
to you exactly what I mean by that, okay?
Okay, you said I'm like exactly.
Obama-
Come on, dude.
Obama primarily deported.
He separated children. He did separate children. I believe he
Obama
did.
primarily deported by getting people that were arrested by regular police for regular crimes that were illegal. Those people were reported to ICE. ICE would come and pick them up from the jail or from the courthouse, and they would be deported. Okay?
Okay.
That's exactly what ICE was doing this whole time until just before Renee Good happened, and the protest initially broke out. Yes, they ramped up how much they were doing it. They were going to every courthouse instead of just a
'cause
few
in the big beautiful
courthouses.
bill, they got like
they
billions of
were-
funding. They were going to ramp up regardless. Nah, dude. You're saying they
It's
weren't
still
going
the
to
same
ramp up
process.
until after? No, you're saying they weren't going to
here's-
ramp up until after Renee Good happened. That's when they decided, oh yeah, we're going to start ramping up. See,
That's not what I'm saying. Hold on. That's not what I'm
Okay.
saying. I just said
Okay, I'm listening.
they were doing more of it, but they were still primarily going to courthouses and to jails to get them. The places they couldn't do
Yeah.
that, and this is what changed, is the sanctuary cities. Those have changed since the first time Trump was in office. The sanctuary cities have stopped allowing ICE to pick those people who have already committed a crime in the United States, already have active deportation orders. They have stopped allowing ICE to come get those people from the courthouses and jails. So now in sanctuary cities like Minneapolis, ICE has to go and get those people from their homes. They have deportation orders to do that. It is literally the court process that is required in order to do that. And that's what they are
Yeah, so-
doing. And that's what people are objecting to, even though it's exactly the same thing. Obama was doing that too, but it was at a smaller scale because there were no sanctuary cities at the time. Every city was cooperating. And so the vast majority were able to be turned over at the police station or at the jail or the courthouse. But because the
ICE
leftist
was
cities,
before all this shit went crazy, before it went way left, while there was a lot more plausible deniability on that side. Why is it that they were showing up at immigration hearings after the judge was just like, yeah, you're legit, your papers are good, you've been following the process as you were supposed to? Why were they picking up those people too?
Because they
why
had
were they also getting
deportation
those people?
orders.
And why were judges being removed who ruled the way the law was actually written?
Okay, so to answer those two questions separately. So the people that they were picking up from those cases had deportation orders. That means perhaps a prior judge or a different judge.
So literally somebody who
on.
doesn't have deportation orders, who's following the process, who
No. Just because they
is
showed up for a
literally
court
showing
case
up because
doesn't mean they were approved to be a citizen. Just because they showed up for the court case does not mean they were approved to be a citizen. There's a whole
No,
process.
but just because they show up to the court date doesn't mean they had deportation orders.
Those are the people that ICE was arresting, though, was the ones that had deportation orders.
No, they were getting much more than just those people,
Okay,
though. You know
find
that,
me-
right? Like,
find
obviously,
me-
they were getting American citizens as well.
Next time you come on,
They're
find me the
returning them.
example to prove that, because everyone that we have looked into, this goes way back now because everything's been about good and pretty since then. But the ones that we specifically were looking into during that time, when that was what was in the headlines, they had deportation orders, and that's why ICE was there to get them. Otherwise, how would ICE know they were there? How would ICE have any idea? If they didn't have an order that said, we need to find this guy because he has a deportation order or is a violent criminal or whatever, how would they know where to find him?
They probably just have a list of people that are part of various government programs that they just go after. That is just, they have the resources to be able to just isolate different
So they just
locations.
have somebody sitting outside the Colorado City courthouse
it's not like
watching?
a big brain. It doesn't require a big brain to just that wouldn't be hard to find. That's
But how would
government.
they know? What I'm saying is, how would they know that they are here illegally without already having background information on it?
without already having background information?
Right.
I mean, what if they don't have much information? They just know that this person was part of DACA and they just want to get the person.
If they're here illegally, what's the problem with that?
What if they're not here illegally? What if they're here legally?
Then they don't get deported.
But this administration is deporting people who are here legally, so
There
that
is
doesn't square.
nobody. There is not a single
you're
person
saying
been
it's like
deported
it's
that
not
was here legally.
okay, but you keep wanting me to like.
There's not a
I
single
just feel like I'm being
person that
gaslit.
is here legally that has been deported. Find me one person that has been
Unless-
deported.
So all I
that
gotta
is a
find is one
citizen.
person,
have
but
their
then I find this one
citizenship
person. Does this like goalpost move by any chance? Like I just want to get an acknowledgement
Okay,
right here.
let's.
Like I
that's
find
a-
one person
I
and then
appreciate
what?
that. I appreciate that. Let's clarify. No, just because you find one person doesn't mean I'm going to magically
Okay,
give up on all my
then
immigration
back
things.
to my point is how
But
many
hold on,
Americans are we
hold
gonna
on.
have to
Don't.
put this through this process?
But you don't get to claim that they're deporting people that are here legally if they're not, because they're not. You can't find one. Try.
But you can't. Okay, so what about the biggest case, the guy, the Obrego Garcia guy, who all of this shit fucking reversed on?
Are you aware that
deported
he
him
had a
because they weren't supposed to
deportation
deport
order
him
from
because
2019?
he was on a strict non-deportation order, and you say
That's
that
incorrect.
why would we go after people? Why wouldn't they go after somebody who they already had background information on,
Okay.
or something to that extent? You said, but they had plenty of background information on this guy.
You're all messed up
He
about
had
the
strict
facts, though.
non-deport orders, and they still fucking deported him. And then when the
You're all
judge
messed
told him
up
to
about the
turn the plane
facts.
around, he didn't. They didn't want to fucking turn the plane around, and they were like, "Oh well, he's on international seas, can't do anything there, haha." But the
John.
Supreme Court still was tipping on, they did a little thing where they have veiled language or whatever, and it could be interpreted. Some people interpret it like they're saying that the president can do it. Others are interpreting it saying that no, they're saying that he needs to bring him
Okay,
back
we
and deport
gotta
him
take this one
properly.
step at a time here. We gotta take this one step at a
But-
time. You're messed up about the facts. Albrego
Okay.
Garcia did have a deportation order. He had a limit on his deportation order that said he was not supposed to go back to, I believe it was El Salvador specifically, the country that he was from. And what that means is the government was supposed to find some other nation that was willing to take him. Originally, when he was deported, because he had a deportation order, he was deported to El Salvador. That was the only thing incorrect that the Trump administration did. Now, the judge told them,
Why do they
the
do
judge
that, though?
told them,
Why
which
did they
this
do
was
that?
a liberal judge from a liberal area, told them that they had to bring him back. That's not within his power to be able to do. He can say it, but the Trump administration doesn't have to acknowledge that necessarily. This is why it ends up going to the Supreme Court in the first place. And so it went back and forth as far as, are we going to bring him back, or are we going to send him to a different place from where he's at? Ultimately, they brought him back and then deported him to a different country. He had a deportation order. He was not a legal citizen. He was not a legal resident. He had committed crimes in this country and had committed crimes in El Salvador. He was a criminal illegal alien. He just wasn't supposed to be sent to El Salvador. He was supposed to be sent to any other country because of his own request, by
Why
the way.
was he?
That was his request.
Okay, so yeah. So I guess my question is, why did they specifically send him to the place where he specifically couldn't go?
Well, according to them, it was an accident. Whether you believe that or not, fine.
I mean,
But
do you?
I don't
Honestly?
care. He was here illegally. I don't care.
So you don't care about the machinations that
He was a
are
criminal that was here
manipulating- that are
illegally. I don't give a
manipulating
shit.
your need to crack down on immigrants, but there's this malicious force that clearly doesn't give a fuck about your mission. Like it actually they'll adopt your mission. They'll wear it as a costume.
What are you even talking about now?
But
I don't understand.
it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is like public sentiment doesn't agree with what anybody on this panel is saying, except for basically me. I mean, when it comes to this issue specifically, we haven't gotten to the other ones. But I mean, I just wanted to get a temperature check, because I thought maybe people would reassess the issue. Like, hey, we're really for immigration. You know, maybe some of the things they did,
I'm for legal immigration.
They need to kind of reel it back a little bit. But what I'm hearing is that no, they're doing great. They need to keep doing what they're doing. I'm like, okay, you like it, I love it. I'm legally born in this country, and my parents too. So you know, as far as that, I don't have anything to worry about. But when it comes to everybody else, like, if we're really for this mission, I just don't see it getting better.
I am for deporting anybody that is here illegally.
Wake up to the shit.
No matter how long they've been here.
We're just going to cose our eyes and just assume that nothing's, like, it's just too many specific instances that bother me. Like, that couple, that 85-year-old couple, that didn't make any sense to me.
I'm not sure.
And when I come back, I'm going to come back with specific instances so that we could, like, because that shit is crazy to me.
I can tell you why I'm not as bothered by these incidents, because we have seen a lot of them. I'm not sure, I haven't heard about the 85-year-old couple specifically, but of course we have gone through many incidents as well over the last several weeks on the show. And every single one that we look into, the facts never line up with what the claim is. Just like Albrego Garcia.
These specific stories, like, where are you finding them?
Well, I mean, it depends on what specific one we're talking about. The vast majority of where I see the original story,
people will throw something up just to get commentary on it, like the fucking Bitcoin Jeffrey Epstein shit. Like, I wasn't even able to fucking. I still haven't looked that shit up yet. That's what I'm probably gonna look into. That's one of the things.
Yeah, I haven't
after
heard
I put together this list, but
I haven't heard anything about that either. But we get them from the news headlines. And as far as like the original claims, we get some from Twitter, of course. And I know that there's plenty of people on Twitter that make outrageous claims, but there are certain outrageous claims that get circulated by millions of people. And none of those have panned out. None of the ones in the mainstream media have panned out to be what they claim it to be. You know, they say such and such, this American citizen was arrested, and then you go and find out it's because they hit a cop and they were released the same day. I can't be mad about that. Why would I be mad about that?
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad about that either, but
that's always what it is. There's always a reason. They weren't arrested for no reason.
Are you crazy, dude? Come on, man.
They weren't arrested for no reason. So I'll give you one example that I saw the other day.
Okay. So just real quick, you think it's just purely narrative and that everything is smoking? It's just narrative. Like, there's not things happening that people are reacting to that's making them reconsider this policy. Rather, it's just the narrative is so against them that they're just believing.
No, I'll tell you what I believe as far as why things look as bad as they do. I believe that there are a bunch of leftist agitators that no matter who is in office, if it's not their guy, are willing to lie about any possible thing that they can to create a problem. And sometimes the facts line up enough that those lies are able to get out there, to get into the mainstream media, to get out into the public sphere and seem true, whether they are or not. And I believe that is what's going on. That's why you have this Minneapolis Spring or whatever, or Minneapolis Sprung, which is a weird reference to the. Never mind. I don't want to go off on something else. But maybe that are out there talking about
or whatever. But like regular people who are in a dead center, like, I mean, you don't think they see that the administration like clearly lies to them on a regular basis, and they also see those same leftists you see lying all the time, and they go, I think the leftists make more sense here.
Okay, but here's my question. I see the administration lying, and we've called it out every time they've done it. At least every time that we've caught. I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect by any means. But did you see the Biden administration lying every day like we did?
All the time. That they had that Korean jump here sitting there telling niggas, she would literally just lie every. I mean, just like it's like the press secretary's job is to lie every two sentences, and they've all done it excessively. But it's just like there's a certain posture where it's like, no, he's a domestic terrorist and he's ahead of it.
Yes, and they never should have.
Like,
they never should have jumped
so fucking hard, so quick. Like, y'all really went to the furthest extreme you possibly could. Like, actually, he was fucking. I was like, what the hell? And then they, of course, went back on it because it was just like we look like frothing maniacal evil people just immediately calling him a terrorist and shit like that, and it's just like, okay, that wasn't exactly the case, and it's just
But do
like,
you see
Jesus
why
Christ, people.
that was the head of ICE that did that, Christine Nome or whatever, and we condemn that just the same. But do you see why they might be a little bit defensive when absolutely everything that they do is under a microscope by these agitators that are trying to
The thing
create?
is, just like, if you do good, if you just do good, people will follow.
When
like,
your job
look
is
at
to arrest
look at the
people.
dude. Look at the dude in New York right now. Like, he had so many people calling him Osama bin Laden and saying that he's gonna ruin shit or whatever. And yeah, he exposed a huge hole in the budget or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, he's governing because he actually wants to fucking help people. There's people who make all this noise about how unsafe it is for Jews and shit like that. But ultimately, like, he gets invited to synagogues and everything like that. If you generally do good, people will follow you. And I feel like what gets missed is that if people don't feel like you're a good person and you're out for their best interest,
Yeah, but I
mean, what are you gonna do? Like, how are you gonna to win their trust besides lie? And I guess you have to lie to get people on your side. But ultimately, when people wake up, they look at their 401ks, they look at their bank account, they look at whatever the fuck they look at, and they see how much you're spending. They're gonna come to a conclusion either way. And I don't know what is gonna be on the other side of that realization, but hopefully we get to some real border policy, because goddamn, like, there's people who shouldn't be here, who, you know, commit crimes, and we definitely need to get them out of here. And I agree with that.
And that's that's primarily what they're doing. The vast majority of people that ICE has actually deported themselves, the majority of people that have deported have been self-deports. But the actual majority that ICE has arrested and deported have criminal records.
The people they have in detention. What about the people they have in detention?
Those are the people they're
deported. It's like 70% people that are non-violent criminals that they have. Bro.
Okay, but non-violent criminal is a goalpost move from criminal.
I've been talking about non-violent this whole time.
Okay, well, you haven't said non-violent. You've just said criminal, and I agree with criminal.
Okay.
Non-violent, it doesn't make a difference to me.
I'm sorry. I don't usually separate. Like, when I'm talking, I don't usually say. So granted,
that's fine. That's fine. I'm just clarifying. Yeah. But for me, a criminal is a criminal, and I don't see any reason to import more criminals, no matter if it's violent or not. A crime is a crime. Like, that might be where our difference is. But
there might be like 3 Americans in America who aren't criminals, who haven't done something illegal. Like, there's maybe 3 people who have never jaywalked, who have never, you know, like, it's.
We're talking about prosecuted crimes, not.
Okay,
you know,
so maybe not, but okay, to that point, maybe not, but, you know, I don't know. Anyways, I wanted to do a temperature check to see where we're at, because I saw the sentiment from independents swing, and then I saw the sentiment from conservatives also swing against what ICE is doing. So I was just like, okay, what the fuck is up? What are we having different conversations? But right now it just seems like, nah, y'all are tripping, you guys are overreacting. We're just doing what we're supposed to do, and just trust us, bro. We got this. Everything will be fine. And it's just like, all right, we'll see.
Well, I'm not saying trust me, I got this. I'm not the one. You know, I don't work for ICE.
No, you guys. Yeah.
I don't have a particular issue with. I don't have a particular issue with what's been going on. I don't like what happened with Preddy. I don't like what happened with Good. But there is no. At the same time, you can't argue that if they weren't there agitating, they would never have been involved. Every time a citizen gets.
That's a fact, right? But I mean, the contention people have is like. We literally have like armed protesters at January 6th. Like, we literally had the same scenario play out. And, you know, one lady
and those people weren't attacked by police and arrested, because they were.
People who actually attack officers that on that day that aren't dead. You know what I mean?
And they were arrested. So it's just crazy. Okay, but
they were arrested.
Okay, but hold on. Saying they're not dead is
attack officers who are not dead.
Yeah, but they weren't armed. They weren't armed when they attacked officers. And you have what's her name, who is dead, who wasn't armed, and who wasn't attacking an officer. She was breaking through a window, but and I've never defended. You know, I've never defended her. I don't have a problem with the fact the cop shot her, but she wasn't armed.
She would have got shot, and it would have been like, yeah, well, she shouldn't have been there or whatever.
That's what
I don't
that's
really
literally
lend
what
to
I
the
just
argument
said.
of stay your ass inside. Don't protest. I'm not with
You
that.
can protest.
You can
all
protest all you
but
want.
stay out of the street and don't attack officers, and everything will go just fine.
Had he not put his hands on officers, he never would have been in a fight with officers. All he had to do was stand on the sidewalk and videotape, yell whatever he wanted to. That's fine. He didn't. He went over and got in their face.
Y'all are sitting here acting like you've never seen a video of somebody filming ICE and they're walking up to the camera talking about I'll erase your voice. You better put away that camera. You put away that camera.
I don't care
You're
what they
impeding
say.
This investigation.
I
How are
don't
you
care what they
impeding
say on
investigation
either
by
side. I
filming
care
you?
what they do.
I'm impeding investigation by filming you. That's what it is. Trying to blur the lines, trying to expand the boundary. Oh, now you're impeding an investigation. You're not really doing shit, but if I just call it that, then I can shoot you.
So let's clarify. First of all, I'm not concerned what somebody says on either side. I'm concerned what they do. Okay? So let's start with that. Second, we have a constitutional right to say whatever we want to say, and we have a constitutional right to peacefully assemble. We don't have a constitutional right to interfere with an investigation, and I'm not saying that filming alone is interfering with an investigation, but I'm just clarifying here. And we don't have a constitutional right to destroy anything, obviously, right? As far as, I have not seen any videos of somebody that is standing a reasonable distance away, filming, not in the middle of the street, not otherwise, breaking some sort of rule or law that is even interacted with by police officers. I haven't seen that. I have seen some that look like that until you see a longer video from a different angle and you realize, like with Preddy. With Preddy, all I saw at first was the officer go to him. And at first I was like, whoa, this really doesn't look good. But then you see the longer video and you realize that's because he had just walked away from the officer. He was the one over in the officer's face, not the other way around. And that changes things.
The people shot him. I don't.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that happened. But had he not been there, armed, agitating, he wouldn't have ever been at risk of getting shot by ICE or anybody else for that matter.
Granted, had he stayed his ass inside, he wouldn't be dead. I mean,
He doesn't have to stay his ass inside. He can be out there protesting and yelling from the sidewalk where he's legally supposed to. Yes, with his gun. I am extremely pro Second Amendment. But carrying a gun comes with responsibilities too, and not fighting officers is one of those responsibilities. It wasn't the protesting that justifies the shooting to me. It was the fighting with the cops while armed. And it still doesn't justify the shooting, but it means that you cannot legally hold the cop liable. That's what it means.
So if I know that the administration doesn't give a fuck about this policy, and I know that people who support this administration really give a fuck about it, what am I supposed to think?
I don't care what you think. I care what's happening.
Okay,
does that make sense? I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just saying
that's why
you're putting a lot of emphasis on how you feel about it versus what's actually going on. Because what's actually going on as we've gone throughout this doesn't seem to align with how you feel about it.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to rationalize this guy getting shot 8 times after the gun was taken away from him.
Did you ever vote for Trump in the first place? Like in 2016, 2020, or 20? Did you ever?
I voted for him in 2016 to make a point to the Hillary Clinton campaign because they really did a lot to
at what point
really let the left know that they didn't want their help.
At what point did you turn on Trump specifically? Like, did you go?
It wasn't very long.
I'm not going to vote
very long in 2016 at all. I was like, man, he's just doing tax cuts for the rich.
So he was
he wasn't doing like as bad. I mean, yeah, he got rid of the drone reporting so that he could like ramp up that program and shit. It was just, he was doing just typically Republican shit that just generally it was just like, okay, like we clearly see who he's working for.
I got a lot.
But
I got a lot of
it wasn't
problems with his
crazy. It
first
wasn't anything
administration.
like I wasn't already expecting. When it came to Trump 2, then it was just like, what the fuck? Like he's doing things where you really get the vibe that he doesn't feel like he'll ever be challenged again. Like he's doing things that there's like a permanent government. Like he's acting like, yeah, Trump 2028, haha, law, like, but we all know that everybody's gonna go with it if he takes it seriously. The second he decides he really wants to do it, people are gonna go, well, whatevs, like, so they just go along with the next thing. I don't know, man. But when I did support him, it was 2020. It was 2016.
Okay.
It was a political statement. It was a political statement against Hillary Clinton.
Right, but so my point is by that he was never going to win you over anyway. You were never going to be happy about what he was doing.
I was definitely open to Donald Trump for sure because he was my choice.
Maybe then, but not when he got into office this time. That's what I'm saying. And
he has a track record. Yeah, he has a track record that could go up. Just like I can look at Obama. If Obama got back in office, I'm not going to support him either because I know he's just going to bail out some more rich people and do some more respectability politics, surface level bullshit, and then people are going to get mad that he didn't fix the problems and just give the country back to Republicans. So I have pattern recognition. I recognize these people ain't shit.
Let me ask you in a different way then. Let me ask you in a different way. What could the Trump administration do with immigration to make you happy with how it's going?
Hire all the judges that they fired and then hire some more immigration judges so now we can actually have paperwork moving so that we didn't have to have so many like hard boot thugs on the street trying to round up people for one. And then maybe with the deportation numbers, I don't even know how many of them are real. But that'll be one place to start is to actually take it seriously as far as a paperwork issue and thinking, well, if we have all these illegals, let's get a better, documenting of who we actually need to be going after and have some type of a priority list, if you will, like some type of a ranking.
But they do have a priority list.
Where we separate but it just turns out that we're not taking that priority. It turns out that we're actually going after regular American citizens. So
they're not though. That's what I'm saying.
Because they look like another person, or because they pissed off an ICE agent or whatever. But I would like that. And then maybe as far as I would like some of the Doge cuts to be reversed so we weren't so incompetent with staffing, hiring, training, that type of thing. Because it just seems like it's just like a mess as far as that goes. But that would be a step in the right direction if you're talking about like immigration specifically, because at the end of the day, like there are people who shouldn't be here that, are a stain on the society because they harm others. And I don't want those people in here. And if Trump was serious about going after them instead of, assigning people who just literally just hate, they hate brown people. That's why they have the job. Like, people like Stephen Miller.
You're making an assumption, though.
If you didn't, I mean, it's not an assumption.
It's an assumption. When has any of them ever said we hate X and X people?
Okay, no, just
or when have they shown that in some sort of way?
On a serious note, we think Stephen Miller loves immigrants because his wife is one.
I don't think he has any problem with legal immigrants, irregardless. I can't believe I just said irregardless. Sorry. Regardless of where they're from.
No. I get what you're saying. Okay, so we just should discount statements that he's made, personal statements he's made,
like
and
what?
Look at that in the vacuum and put it to the side and say, hey, he said that, but we think he means well.
I've never heard a statement by him that makes me go, sounds like he's racist.
I mean, he used to have like long on YouTube. You could find like long speeches of him railing against immigrants, and he's literally a white nationalist. Like this is not a secret. I'm not revealing anything here.
Okay, I don't know a whole bunch. I don't know a whole bunch about Stephen Miller prior to him being part of the administration. Well, I will look
So
into
in
that.
politics, like they signal to certain demographics to let them know, like, I'm with you, I'm with this coalition, I'm with that coalition, I'm signaling to this person so that, you know, I have my political base of support. And to act like Trump doesn't wink and nod to white nationalists is just to
doesn't, man.
like
That
say that, okay, I guess
he doesn't.
that's
just
okay. All right. All right, bro.
First of all, how many
All
white
right.
nationalists do you think there are in the United States?
How many?
Yeah, like roughly what would you say?
I mean, 3,000,
Yeah, I mean,
300,000, 3
no.
million,
It's like
5 million.
It's like
What
3,000.
what is the significance of the number? Like, what?
My
So
point is, they're not even a voting bloc.
if I say it's like, you know, half of, if I say it's half of all Republicans, then what? Like, what does that do?
Well, if you think it's half of all Republicans, then it shows that, you know, your basis of what a white supremacist is clearly flawed. But the number is
Okay.
incredibly small, and they're not even a significant voting bloc. So why would Trump bother giving a wink and a nod to white nationalists? That's what I don't understand. Trump,
Because that's always been the Republican
his
base of
entire
support.
life, prior to being president, his entire life, there was never a whisper of him being a racist. It was only once he got into
There were
politics.
people suing him, there were people taking him to court. It's just that he's a really rich guy, so he can bury things. But yeah, he always had these court cases. He always had people he scammed that he didn't pay, contractors,
different
black
than
people that he
race.
kicked out of Trump Tower because he didn't want black people living there or whatever. Like, he always had instances, individualized little micro things
Okay,
that
hold
would
on.
happen, and people were like, well,
conflated
he
two
talked
different
nice to
things
me,
here.
so he couldn't possibly be a racist because he sounds so good in front of me.
But
You know,
see,
so,
you're
yeah, of
operating on a
course.
bunch of false information. That Trump Tower thing you just said, that's conflated with a story about his dad about a building they owned in the 60s.
About not being able to, not allowing black people, the comment he made about not wanting black people to
supposedly
rent out
not
rooms in there.
allowing supposedly, yeah,
That
and it
came
wasn't
from
even Trump
an
that said that.
employee
It
that
was an
worked there for
employee
2
that said
weeks and then
that.
was fired for his incompetence. And then they asked him for a statement, and he, surprise, surprise, went off about his bosses that fired him.
He was a
I don't
disgruntled.
quite
He was
take
just.
it.
He was just a disgruntled. He was just a disgruntled employee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it was, then here's why we're willing to believe it's a disgruntled employee, because I have a feeling where you're going to go with that. Because that is an isolated incident that happened one time 50 years ago. If there were a bunch more of similar situations of black individuals that tried to rent from Trump or his dad and couldn't, then I could see a pattern and go, okay, maybe there's something here. But it was one isolated incident with no other similar incidents. And it's very different than Trump himself denying somebody in his own tower because they're black. It was his dad, and it wasn't even his dad that denied the guy. It was an employee for his dad, of one of thousands at the time, one of thousands of employees that his dad had. So it might not have had anything to even do with him.
So that one specific thing. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not,
I was supposed to just not look at anything else.
no, I'm not
The
saying
only
don't look at anything
reason
else,
why
but
that
what I'm
case
pointing
even came to
out,
be was because a black gentleman
I mean,
came
all this
in
old
to
stuff.
rent an
I'm
apartment
literally
out
looking
because
at.
he saw
I'm
an
literally
ad in
looking
the
at him getting rid of the African American
they
History
didn't have
Museum.
anything
I'm
to
literally
rent.
looking.
because they run these ads constantly. They
Okay.
continually run these ads whether there is available apartments or not. So they
Mhm.
said, hey, sorry, we don't have anything available. He said, well, why does it say in the newspaper? Exactly what I told you. They run the ads every week, no matter if there's availability or not, because people come in, they take down their phone number and everything. They'll contact you as soon as an apartment comes up. Just so happens later he brings his friend in to try to get an apartment.
Mhm.
They just found out like an hour before the friend comes in, much later in the day, that a person vacated their apartment without telling them. They just left one day. And so they're like, oh yeah, we have this one available now. We just found out someone left. And so then they conflated this whole story that they denied the black man entrance when they just before had no idea that this guy had left.
But and even with accepting that story, what I'm pointing out is that your opinions that you've developed about him, about being this white nationalist or tipping his hand to white nationalists because he's clearly racist, it's based on incorrect facts. And if you'd like to move to another one, let's move to another one, and we can take a look at that situation. But my point is,
if you wanted the Excel sheet with with direct sources, I can definitely do that because I kind of haphazardly dropped in this.
I understand that. I understand that. And I understand. We're all in the spot here, and that's fine.
I didn't take it from your perspective of just like
But my
these
point
things
is,
were still being litigated. They're very old cases where people have had what they had to say.
But you still had an
for quite
incorrect
some time.
perspective of what happened. That's the problem. And my point is, we didn't develop our perspective about Trump without investigating these cases.
Trump referred to certain countries as shithole countries, what did he really mean then?
They were shithole countries. They're corrupt countries that don't take care of their people. They don't give their people rights. They don't give a shit about them.
So are we a shithole country then?
The people there don't care about their country. They don't fight for their own. We're not a shithole country.
Okay, so we care about our people.
Yeah.
Okay. So when does it start in South Carolina?
Okay, so when are you gonna move to Ghana? When are you gonna move to Iran?
When am I gonna move to Ghana? Why would I move to Ghana for? I was born here.
Because it's a shithole country, right?
Say what?
Because it's a shithole country, right?
Oh, wait a second. You think because our rich people are richer than anywhere else that means our poor people are better than poor people anywhere else?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
100%. The rich people,
the
poor people here are richer than 99.99% of the world.
Have you ever considered that the person with 1%? Have you ever considered that the person with like negative like $50,000 in total net worth might be like worse off than the person who's just their job is just to fucking tend to their family stock on their rural farm and somewhere in fucking one of those shithole countries?
Where
like,
they're
have we ever considered that?
Where they're shitting in the ground and cooking with cow shit and they're eating bugs? Yes, that poor person, 50K in debt.
Like,
Millions of people are doing that. Millions of people are doing that. That's what I'm talking about.
People are eating shit, bro.
No, they're cooking.
Millions of people are eating shit and cooking shit.
I said they're shitting in the ground and they're cooking with cow shit.
Idea what's going on outside this border, do you? Like, you just think
apparently
people
you
are
don't,
outside,
because
like, scratching their
that
asses
is
and
very
like,
common.
Say what?
I said apparently you don't, because that is very common that they shit in the ground and that they use cow shit as a fuel source to cook with. They dry it out and use it as a fuel source in the stove. That happens in India, that happens in certain parts of Africa, and that happens in certain parts of Asia. That's
okay.
That's the they.
So
that's
when you talk
people.
about something and it's like 3% of the like fucking 97% of something, and you speak to it like it's like everything else, like I don't understand how I can see the world from that prism. I guess because I travel too much. I guess because I talk to too many different people. But it's just insane, this blind spot. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. I guess I seem like the crazy one this time. I mean, until the midterms come around, then everybody rigged it or stole it or whatever. I just really hope that people make their voices heard, because it seems like the current administration has the wrong impression. They think that everybody wants to go after every undocumented person, but I don't think that's where the public currently is. And the conservative movement has to convince us. I mean, there's a convincing that has to be done. So
I don't think we have to.
I'm
That's
out, guys.
the law.
I appreciate it. You guys are cool. I'll definitely be back. I just, like I said, I was really just planning to drop in and actually be out by like 9 o'clock, and I kind of went over.
No, it's fine, man. We appreciate you being here, and I appreciate being able to have a heated discussion, but politely.
Yeah, you guys are cool. Like I said before, you guys are cool. I wouldn't be back if I didn't think you guys were cool. So, definitely thought-provoking. And then I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy the rest of my day, because I only have like a couple hours before I gotta go to bed for work tomorrow.
I feel it.
All right, guys, take care.
Have a good night. Later.
All right, you too, man. You have a good night.
I apologize, Austin. I know I kind of took over your show a little bit. I know I did that last time, and I apologize. Just stop having me on if you don't want me to do it, because apparently I can't help myself.
Yeah.
Good
I mean, I was
Lord.
researching some things that he was saying just to get a more. I'm gonna have to dig more into this Stephen Miller thing before he comes
Yeah,
back.
I do want to
because
look more into
so
that, and that's
far,
why I backed off that, because I don't know much about him before the administration. I do know that I
Yeah.
have not seen him say anything remotely racist since he has been part of the administration. But of course he wouldn't if
Yeah.
he's in office. So I'll give fairness to that. But
Mhm.
from my
Right.
perspective, for those listening real quick, from my perspective, I feel like John is similar to a lot of liberals that I've talked to, where I get why they believe what they believe, right? Like I get why they're in their position they're in, but it's based on all of this, all of this information that has been circulating around for a long time that has been long debunked. And if you just keep building off that same BS information, I get how you get there. But you noticed how every time, we went into the details on something specific that he mentioned, he would just jump to something else. Because it didn't matter that that wasn't true. What matters is the general belief that he has, which is he doesn't like Trump,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I like talking to John. I feel like
Absolutely.
he gets heated sometimes, and we get going, but
Yeah.
then we kind of, we take some steps down and we come back to a
Well,
baseline.
and even when he's heated, he's very respectful, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
not
I do.
he's
I
not
will say
cussing at us,
he's
calling us
respectful.
fucking assholes and racists and all of this. And that's what I'm not at that point I'm not going to listen to you. But John doesn't do that, and I appreciate that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. We'll have him back, do some more research on the things he said, and sounds like he's gonna have some things to bring us. So,
We'll see how that goes.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun.
All in all, another great episode, I think.
Yeah. Um, let's bring this up. Still got time before I need to leave. So,
Okay. Yeah. I figure we could we could talk a little bit
this
about
is.
it.
I just asked Grok, is Stephen Miller a white nationalist? It says Stephen Miller, a longtime advisor to Donald Trump, serving in roles like senior policy advisor in Trump's first term and currently is White House deputy chief of staff for policy as of 2025, has frequently been accused of holding or promoting white nationalist views, particularly in relation to his hardline anti-immigration stance. These allegations stem primarily from leaked emails from 2015 to 2016 when Miller worked for Senator Jeff Sessions in the Trump campaign. Obtained and
Okay.
analyzed by the Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, Hate Watch Project. In these emails sent to Breitbart news editors, Miller reportedly promoted content from sites labeled white nationalists, e.g., for example, VDare. I don't know
Never
what that
heard of it.
is. I
Yeah.
don't know if you do, Chris.
No.
But recommended the novel The Camp of Saints, which Grok says is a book popular in far right circles for its depiction of white genocide via non white immigration.
What is
So
it
we
called?
promoted a book, The Camp of Saints.
Okay. I'm going to look it up while you're continuing here.
Trying to highlight that for you, but shared links to
So he believes in replacement
American
theory.
Renaissance. Do what?
So he believes in replacement theory is what that's alleging, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're racist either. It might be an
No.
incorrect belief, but it doesn't mean you're racist. Oh man, I
He
didn't
shared
even
links
cover
to American
the voting
Renaissance,
thing.
AMRIN, and pushed ideas tied to eugenics era immigration restrictions and conspiracy theories about demographic replacement. The SPLC described this as showing an affinity for white nationalism in alignment with far right extremism. So it
Okay.
sounds like so far it's the SPLC that has decided that he's a white
Yeah,
nationalist.
the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is inherently racist itself, that's literally black nationalists calling white nationalists white nationalists. It's, it's the pot calling the kettle, basically. It's extremists calling extremists. That's the best way to put it.
His associations, including collaborating with Richard Spencer, a prominent white nationalist, never heard of him before, at Duke University to host
Yeah.
events featuring figures like Peter Brimelow, the founder of VDARE, whatever that was earlier, designated a white nationalist group by the SPLC. Coverage in major
Richard
outlets like the
Spencer
New
is
York
a
Times, The Guardian, NPR, PBS, and the always faithful and truth-telling site Wikipedia summarizes which described his politics as far-right, anti-immigration, and influenced by or sympathetic to white nationalist ideas.
Hmm.
Books like Gene Guerrero's Hate Mongerer, Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, and the White Nationalist Agenda from 2020 traces
spell
his
the name for me.
ideological development and labeled his agenda as white nationalist.
Spell the last name on Gene for me.
Guerrero.
Guerrero.
Yep.
All right, let me see who this
These
is.
claims
How
led
much you wanna
to
bet it's a radical
significant
leftist?
backlash. Over 100 Democratic members of Congress called for his resignation in 2019 through 2020. Resolutions and letters condemned him as a white nationalist, unfit for his role. Defenses and counterpoints. Miller and the Trump White House have dismissed these as partisan attacks often tied to the SPLC, criticized by some conservatives as biased or overly broad in labeling groups. Conservative outlets like National Review and Fox News reported on the allegations but framed them as overreactions or attacks from critics. Examples highlighting Democratic calls for firing without endorsing the white nationalist label themselves. Miller has never publicly identified as a white nationalist, and supporters argue his focus is strictly on immigration enforcement, national sovereignty, and opposing illegal immigration, not racial superiority. The label white nationalist is most prominently applied by critics on the left, civil rights groups, and some mainstream media based on the email evidence and his policy influences, for example, family separations, travel bans, and efforts to limit legal immigration. On the right, it is often rejected as smear tactics against strong immigration restrictionism. Never seen that word before. The debate remains polarized with no formal legal finding or universal consensus.
So, at best, you could say he's a replacement theory guy. It sounds like, based on the sharing of that book. I have the description of that book that they base all this, or that they based a lot of that off of. So, The Camp of Saints is a 1973 French dystopian novel by author and explorer Jean Raspail. It presents a speculative fiction account of the destruction of Western civilization through mass immigration from the third world. Well, if we look at France today, that seems like it was a little bit foretelling, but that's just me. And I'm not saying America is France, it's not, but particularly focusing on a large fleet of impoverished migrants from India arriving in France. The novel depicts a scenario in which a massive exodus of desperate people driven by poverty and overpopulation sail toward Europe. As they approach Western nations, particularly France, are portrayed as failing to defend themselves due to liberal values, moral hesitation, and a lack of national pride. The story explores themes of cultural collapse, national identity, and perceived threat of demographic change. The book has been widely criticized for conveying racist, xenophobic, nativist, and anti-immigration themes, and is considered a controversial. There is nobody more anti-immigration than every single one of these countries that these immigrants come from. Why is it that we are just automatically supposed to accept them when they would never accept us? Just throwing that out there. Anyway, it has been praised by some conservative and right-wing figures, including Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, and has been described as a key influence on the Great Replacement theory. Despite it sounds like the original source of it. Despite its literary acclaim from some critics like William F. Buckley Jr., who called it a great novel, it is also condemned by others for promoting fear and hatred of the other. The novel has been published multiple times in the U.S. and has seen renewed popularity, notably returning to the bestseller list in France. You know what might be worth doing with John? I was just thinking while we went through this.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just for anyone who is currently tuning in, the debate has ended. John had to go, but we were just discussing the debate that happened. All right, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. I think what might be valuable is to is to get down. Let's ignore next time, and I'm gonna say let's do, but just it's a proposal. If we just ignore everything that's going on right now and get down to what each side believes as far as just generally speaking. Okay, what is immigration look like to you ideally? What do you think are the main sources of poverty, of crime, of these sorts of things? Because I'm willing to bet that a big part of the issues that we have are based on those fundamental difference about those beliefs, right? Because I see uh, problems with crime as having to do with poverty, for example. But just because somebody's poor doesn't mean you excuse the crime. The encouragement is to make them not poor, not ignore the crime, right? Whereas somebody on the left is more willing to look at them as a victim and ignore the crime in an effort to stop the crime. And so I think that maybe getting down to some of those core issues that aren't looking at specific situations that are happening politically currently might be informative. I wasn't the
Yeah.
best explanation, but
It could be better because I do feel like a lot of what is driving his opinions was like what you said, what he feels like is going on right now.
exactly.
And a lot of what is going on right now is because of the pushback from the left. And I'm not,
Exactly.
what I feel like he was trying to imply was that, we're completely okay with everything that's going on. We're not completely okay with what happened to Renee, what happened to Preddy. They're awful events, but unfortunately they happen and there's nothing we can do about it. But if the left could tone it down and actually go back to peacefully protesting, that you have a right to do, peacefully protest,
Mm-hmm.
and quit with all the agitating and getting in their way, literally stopping them from being able to enforce the law, then things would be a lot better.
Right. And the reason why, because I think John and perhaps somebody on the left might say, well, but why does the left need to back down instead of ICE? And I don't mean to use that sarcastic tone as implying that John said that was just anyway. And the reason why the left is the issue as far as we're concerned is because ICE was following the law. They were arresting criminals, and yes, some people who had not necessarily committed any other crime except illegal immigration were arrested as well because they were arresting criminals, and that means finding other people. But that's still against the law, and that is still the law of the land. ICE's job is to enforce the immigration law of the land. And that's why it is leftists that need to go home. That's why this problem is because of leftists, because they started agitating against that because they're mad at Trump, not because ICE was doing anything different than they've ever done, other than the whole sanctuary city thing that forces them to be more obvious in blue cities. Mm-hmm. But again, they're just trying to enforce the law. They can't help the fact that Blue City won't cooperate with them anymore. It wasn't because of anything they did. All of this was triggered and started by these agitators, not by ICE. That's why it's not ICE's responsibility to back down, but the leftists. And
they're just enforcing the law.
Let me bring up on screen here real quick this page. I've been wanting to look into it more. I mentioned it briefly, but I didn't want to. I didn't. I figured neither you or John had heard about it, so I kind of moved past it real quick.
Yeah, I had a video I was gonna show.
Go ahead
but
if you want to. I can
proves you wrong on your sanctuary city thing.
What?
It's a video from CNN during Obama's era.
Okay. Oh, were the sanctuary city, was there still a or some sanctuary cities then?
hmm
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
sanctuary
okay
cities
with
have
being
been around
wrong.
since like 2001.
I didn't realize that they went back that far. Let me hear this here. Oh, I got it muted. Okay.
Agents mistakenly
Can you
arrest
start
the
it over,
target's
please?
brother.
In the process of talking to him in the vehicle, he then said,
But this was ICE operations that were going on under Obama.
This other address, he led us to that address, and we were able to actually arrest the individual.
I says county ordinance creates a danger to the community by releasing undocumented
Right, that he's
criminals.
using a fake identity, or
That is correct. We believe he's been using a U.S. citizen's identity to live and work. He has an Illinois driver's license. Third target, he has an unauthorized use of a weapon, which was a firearm. He has a couple DUIs. He is a criminal. He has extensive criminal history. And by taking him out of the community, it's making the community safer. And that's ICE's purpose, is to focus on criminals.
And see, this is how the media portrayed it under the Obama administration when Obama was trying to get leftists to back off it.
Yep.
Ooh, are they going to play the CNN segment too?
Yeah, I think they're kind of just talking about that. But do you see how much easier it was for ICE to just go in there and arrest someone? When there
So-
isn't tons of people yelling and blowing whistles and literally standing in their way, kicking out their taillights and spitting on them. How
So
much easier it is.
can I address real quick what I was incorrect
Mhm.
about? So what I said incorrectly was that the sanctuary cities were not happening under Obama, and as you just showed, that apparently was not true. However, it was definitely not anything the same as what has happened since then, since Obama left office. There might have been one or two back then. There might have been 5 or 6 back then. There was not every blue city, major city,
Yeah.
refusing to cooperate with ICE. And even some of those sanctuary cities, they were still back then handing over real criminals. Anyone that was like a major criminal was still being handed over. Whereas now, these judges won't even put these criminals in jail so that ICE, because as soon as they put them in the system, ICE finds out, and even though the city won't hand them over to them, ICE can wait outside the courthouse. They won't even do that now. So there is still a difference, which is what I was getting to. I did not realize that this was happening on a smaller scale back then,
Yeah.
but it is still
Come on,
different
Chris.
now.
Get your facts straight.
Oh, shut up.
Mr. Truth Teller, voice of reason, and I'm sorry. I had to pull your chain. I
No,
heard
you're
you
good.
say it, and I almost wanted to
If
come
I'm
back
wrong,
at you.
If I'm wrong, I want to know it, but
Yeah. I know. I'm making fun of
Did
you
they-
in spirit. not
Oh, I
because
think they
actually
pulled
you're a
it.
dumb idiot retard.
I think they pulled it. Hold on here. I'm trying to find this page that I wanted to show. But I think they pulled it. Oh no, here it is.
Oh no.
Oh, Minneapolis sprung, not Minnesota sprung.
We didn't even get to talking about how we really don't like Kash Patel's, Kristi Noem's rhetoric and
I
the
don't-
things they're saying.
I don't
We
like
really
either of
don't
them,
like
period.
a majority of things that come out of their offices. Like,
Yeah, I don't like either of them, period. Not anymore. I gave him a chance.
I gave Kash Patel a real long chance, but
I think a year is long enough. And yeah,
Mhm.
Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi, just fire them. You know, Kristi Noem, she hasn't, other than those two statements, the one she made immediately after Good and the one she made immediately after Preddy, other than those two statements, which were they were a lie and a knee-jerk reaction that never should have happened. She hasn't done anything in particular that I can think of that's wrong, but she's just not a good fit for what her job is. Like, her going out there with ICE, you know, carrying around an AR-15 and in high heels and stuff, it's just a stupid look. Like, she has no idea. She is literally demeaning the credibility of the agency just in being part of it. And for that reason alone, she should be fired. So I want to be clear that unlike Pam Bondi, it's not that she's done something egregious. other than those lies, that was not ideal, but I wouldn't necessarily fire her for that. I would just reprimand her publicly for it. But yeah, yeah. But Pam Bondi and Kash Patel specifically, they flat out 180'd when they went into office. Fire them. So this is Minneapolis Sprung. And you'll notice this account is from the Netherlands. Okay, so this is a agitator from another country that is trying to assist in what is going on in Minneapolis right now. They are helping agitate, helping organize these road blockades, which I think it's absolutely hilarious that these leftists, the first thing they always do is set up illegal borders and checkpoints and check people's papers. The irony just never hits them. It's absolutely incredible.
I'm not trying to talk about John in a bad light here, as we kind of discuss, but do you like how he kind of like dodged the COVID thing? Where he was like, oh, we just did a country of check your papers now? I was like, yeah, well, except during COVID.
Yeah, and I was going to go on that, but he goes so many different directions, But
yeah, I also was about to bring up Joe Biden with the stop and frisk.
You might not have heard me, but I did say they literally did check my papers when he said that, because here in Washington, you had to have a vaccine card to go back to work.
I had to carry around a piece of paper with me that said I was a essential worker.
Yep.
Or
New York did the same.
I never heard anyone say it stopped, but eventually I just had it with me. And
no, it was only the most radical places like New York, LA, Seattle, where they like tried to enforce it to some level. And that backed off pretty quick, obviously, because people weren't having it, but they tried to do it. And this is not you have your papers. First of all, no American should have to justify their right to be here, right? But we have a problem where we have millions of people in the country illegally. Our country is diverse. It is not a monolith of white people or black people or anything else. And all of the people here illegally are some other race that we can clearly identify, right? We are the most diverse population on Earth. And therefore, it is almost impossible by looking to tell an illegal citizen from a legal citizen. That and the fact that illegals are not a single population either. They're from all 193 countries on the planet. If you look at the deportation list, we've deported to over 150 countries. It's not as if we're just deporting Mexicans. Obviously, the vast majority do come from Central and South America because that's what happens to border us. But they still come from everywhere. But because we have this problem, it is reasonable, and this is part of something that the Trump administration should have done. They should have come out and said, look, we are not in favor of going around and asking everybody for their papers. That is not something we want to do. We understand that that is not, what we do in America, etc. However, we have no way to tell if somebody is here legally or illegally, on the spot, except for that you have legal documentation. And so what we would request is the cooperation of American citizens to help us when we're in the field determine who is here legally and who is here illegally. I am perfectly willing to do it voluntarily in order to help get the illegal immigration out of the country. But I'm not in favor of any force being applied to having to carry papers around, right? The problem is, and this is where Trump does collide with conservatives a lot and gets criticism from both you and I a lot, is he's not a conservative and never has been. He's a New York Republican. And as a New York Republican, he's more big government than most conservatives would prefer. It's why he had no problem jumping on banning butt stocks, even though it was something that conservatives were absolutely opposed to. It's why he has no problem or doesn't think about necessarily exactly what I just said, right? Because to him, it's a legitimate action that the government needs to do, and that's good enough. And that's not good enough. But I understand why he sees it that way. And maybe it's just that understanding that makes it easier for me to be okay with it under Trump than I would be under somebody else who has a different understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this page. So today, hundreds of community members and their vehicles passed peacefully through the barricades. Then ICE tried to pass through. They were met with fierce resistance and were forced to flee before they could penetrate further into the neighborhood. Resistance in motion. Shortly after ICE was chased away, Minneapolis police officers clad in riot gear rushed onto the scene, threatened community members with arrest, and dismantled the roundabouts that they were using to keep their neighborhoods safe. So just a couple days ago, they shared a video of the police coming up. Hang on. Let me get it. It's not very far down here. Right here. So this was the first day they set it up.
What can we do
Brought a recliner out
stop?
there.
Because we have fire trucks and ambulances that might need to get through here.
They can come
And
through
we have,
here.
you're talking about the community, and we're talking about making sure that your neighbors can get access to emergency services.
City buses have been easily passing, so I suspect.
And we're all here. When they come, we'll move it for them, you know? Frankly, you're the one blocking it right now.
Yeah, I heard there was some running around over there.
Minutes matter. Ambulance is responding. We'll let them through.
You're driving with swapped plates on their cars. Why aren't you ticketing them?
Oh,
They've
that's
got swapped plates on their cars. That's not legal in Minnesota.
The question is, what gives you the authority to move all your shit out into the middle of the street and start telling people when they can and cannot go? Nothing. And as you see here, the cops did nothing about it. Apparently they finally did because they ran into an actual issue. But this is the problem. Minnesota and Minneapolis are just allowing this shit to happen while ICE is trying to do their jobs. And as long as that's the case, I'm not terribly upset when one of these people gets hurt because they won't stop screwing with ICE doing their jobs. Even though, like you said, it doesn't mean that I'm happy or think that exactly everything that went down with Renee or Pretty was good. It's not like I'm celebrating it. I'm just not that upset about it because they had no business there and they created the problem that put themselves in danger. They created the dangerous situation that led to the mistakes. But the point of looking at this page, though, was they're actively trying to call on people to commit crimes. It happens to be from the Netherlands. There are others, but this should leave no doubt that this isn't about immigration. This isn't about even Donald Trump. This is about America and using any martyr, using any situation to agitate, to create violence, to create chaos, to undermine this country. And it's not just, it's not it's not even American citizens in some instances, or behind all of it, right? These are foreign agitators in this case, and there are many others involved. Just like with some of the black movements in the 60s and 70s. The communists were funding those movements. The communists were the ones supplying them with weapons and explosives and money. The communists were the ones supplying them with tactics because they were trying to undermine the country and they saw a useful group of people that were already angry.
Interesting.
trying to zoom in on this, but it just keeps...
Yeah, it never works. It's stupid. It zooms in on the web page, not the picture. I don't know.
Oh, you know what? This is right here. This is what I wanted to read too. I was originally going to show that cop video and then read this. All right, stop zooming in and out. Good Lord. Okay. They posted the... Oh, you know what? I got it on my phone. We don't even... Well, I should pull it up on the screen though, because people can read it. I know, I'm so indecisive. It should be right here. If I don't find it, I'll just read off my phone. But it wasn't very far down.
Dang it. I should have put a marker in when he left on the Studio One recording.
Yeah, I should have too.
Separate it.
Oh well. Why? Okay, I'm gonna read off my phone because apparently Brave froze. Stream all right? Yeah, the stream's okay at least. Anyway, where is photos, screenshots? There we go. For immediate release, 12626, Minneapolis Spring Media Team, minneapolis.spring@protonmail.com. Twin City residents confront ICE presence after weeks of federal violence. Minneapolis, Minnesota. One day after an anonymous ICE officer killed Alex Preddy, Minneapolis and St. Paul Twin Cities residents gathered in sub-zero temperatures outside a downtown Hilton Home 2 Suites. A hotel known to profit from housing federal agents. Despite -10 cold, roughly 200 protesters arrived with drums, speakers, megaphones, and other noisemakers. Veterans, teenagers from immigrant communities, and elders all came together to express their grief and solidarity. And violence. The action capped a weekend of historic protest turnout across the region. Noted. For 8 weeks, massed heavily armed ICE officers have roamed Twin Cities streets as part of the agency's surge. Residents report ongoing fear, trauma, and sleepless nights in response to these operations. On Sunday night, the community came together with to send a clear message. ICE is not welcome in the Twin Cities, and corporations should not profit from the occupation. Demonstrators picketed outside the Hilton, filled the street with noise, and briefly used dumpsters to block traffic in order to keep protesters safe. Participants covered the hotel exterior with anti-ICE messages, and one window was smashed. ICE vehicles were seen in the hotel parking lot, and participants reported some vehicles were disabled during the course of the protest. After several hours of sustained protest, participants witnessed ICE agents evacuating the hotel and decided to disperse. Twin Cities residents refused to remain silent while the Trump administration kidnaps neighbors and terrorizes communities. Elected officials and government agencies continued to deflect responsibility. In response, residents have taken collective action to end ICE's occupation of their cities. What happened tonight was almost too restrained when compared to the terror being unleashed by ICE for months now, said one participant. The ICE surge has functioned as a war on civilians, regardless of citizenship status. During the period, 2 people have been shot and killed at point-blank range. ICE vehicles are regularly ramming moving civilian cars with drivers, passengers, and children inside. Agents are smashing windows, carrying out carjackings, and deploying chemical weapons against children. No, they're not. Federal agents are kidnapping residents and stalking people at their homes for simply attempting to film ICE activity. After 8 weeks of unchecked violence enabled by federal immunity, Minneapolis St. Paul residents face a stark reality. We're not going to cooperate with ICE or let them intimidate us, said Sarah M., at St. Paul resident and participant in the protest. I haven't slept well for months. We're done being told to stay quiet or stand in a cage they call a protest zone. The surge must end. Federal forces must be recalled. If ICE refuses to leave, the community will not allow agents to rest comfortably after the terror they have inflicted. There is a kind of peace that only exists because it has refused to tell the truth. Now, I don't want to assume what John would think of that. But based on what he said, it is my interpretation that John would have read something like that and possibly taken it at face value. Because he mentioned a lot of those same accusations, right? That ICE was kidnapping people and things like that. None of that is true. They offered zero proof in any of that to back up those allegations. They just said them. And then they went on to basically threaten war against a federal agency for enforcing the law. I don't see how you cannot see that as a problem. If you believe that ICE is doing something incorrectly, why hasn't Congress done anything to rein ICE in? Because they know they're following the law. Huh?
They're in on it too.
What do you mean they're in on it too?
They're all white nationalists too.
Oh, yeah, of course. All the Democrats
Even though it's only
in
a slim
Congress
majority
are
of
white
Republicans.
nationalists. The good news is this is backfiring for the Democrats every bit as much, if not more, than it is for the Republicans, because leftists are pissed that the Democrats aren't
I hear
doing
what he's
anything.
saying. There is some kind of, there is some turning. Obviously, things have changed since January 20th,
Sure.
2025. We've had a whole year. We've had a lot of people die. And, a lot has been pushed through the media. So, yes, there is, on the Republican side, some change in opinion of this. My friend Jesse thinks that ICE is going a little too hard and they need to back off a little bit, even though he will tell you over and over again he is a conservative. He fully supports Trump. He just thinks they need to back off a little bit.
But how
Then
much
I
is he
have
paying
friends
attention
who
to?
are conservatives that are saying Trump needs to go extra hard. And of course, I have said, yes, I just think we need to keep steamrolling like we are. And I would like to see things increase, but I know tensions are pretty hot right now. So I'm not fully advocating for us to just pull the brakes off and push it into fifth gear and get going. But so you do see that, but it's not so much as people are fully just losing support of Trump and coming to the left,
Yeah, no, I think that he is overestimating how upset the average American is over this. But I don't know any better than he does either. But I don't know any conservatives that are upset about this. I know some that were very upset about the comments that Trump made about, what's his name, carrying a gun at a protest and stuff. And I'm upset about that too. But I've always understood that Trump is not a strong 2A guy. I've always understood that Trump is not the person I'm looking to champion the 2A, and that is always a concern that I've had when voting for him.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, we didn't elect Trump to undo all the unconstitutional gun laws.
Right.
We didn't do that. We elected him for mass deportation. That's the number one issue right now.
Realistically, we elected Congress to do that.
Yes, we're going to call him out when, he makes these comments, but then again, he is only the person that is executing laws. So like you're saying, it's more of a problem with Congress and possibly the Supreme Court to reinterpret some things. But
correct.
So
yeah, which I've noticed they've held off on
doing. Get too upset about Second Amendment things coming from Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You wouldn't like to hear it, but
I wish you would stop saying dumb stuff like that. Same with Kash Patel.
Yeah.
But I again,
it's not.
Another thing is I don't pay attention at all to what Trump says. Because what Trump says is not relevant. Trump is always playing a game when he's talking. He's playing a game with the media. He's playing a game with anybody he's trying to negotiate with, and he's playing a game with the opposition. And it's not. He doesn't blatantly lie. Yes, Kristi Noem blatantly lied. Yes, Kash Patel blatantly lied about Preddy, and one of them, I can't remember which, about Good. But you don't get the daily lies like you did from Biden and KJP and stuff, where literally everything they said was untrue. The things that Trump says, generally speaking, are true. if you don't take them literally. The stock market's the best it's ever been. No, it's not the best it's ever been, but it's doing good. Inflation is lower than it's ever been. No, it's not lower than it's ever been, but it's down 4% from 2 years ago. That's good. If you don't take it literally, it's fine. But if you're trying to hang on every word he says to hold him to a lie, then sure, you could say he lies about everything. But who cares if he said the stock market's the best it's ever been because it's up 10%? No, it's not the best it's ever been, but it's damn good. Like, it's, you have to be trying to be angry about something to do that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
I
why
appreciate
I still have this on
opposition.
screen.
I'm not anyone to say that you're not allowed to just criticize him. Obviously, we criticize him all the time, but I have an overwhelming majority of support for him. You know,
As long as he
when I
continues to
was
do.
a young 18-year-old man and I just got my right to vote because I became an adult and there was a presidential election coming up and I made a choice. I wasn't voting for a woman, so I voted for Trump. I really had no idea what the implications would have been for voting for Hillary or Trump. But at that time, I thought he's just a politician. Coming into 2020, I still would have voted for him, but I worked too late. I couldn't make it to the polling place before they closed.
Wow. You lost us that election.
Mm-hmm.
Would your work not
I
let you
still
off to
thought he was
vote?
just a What?
Would your work not let you off to vote?
Well, I could have gone in the morning. I had time in the morning, but I didn't think I'd be working that late.
Gotcha.
I ended up working till like almost 10 p.m.
Don't
I
let
thought
it
I'd
happen
be
again.
off well in time. So I was lazy and I lost this election. But I used to just think of Trump as just any other politician. He's just any other. I think Trump
He
is
is not even
different
close
from.
to any other
He's
politician.
outside of this system. He hasn't been doing this for 60 years. You know, he's not just some other politician. I give him much more grace than I would give any just politician that's been doing this for
Agreed.
20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, and I won't deny I give him a lot of grace that I wouldn't give to most politicians, and certainly not to a leftist politician. But I feel like there's good reason for that too, that I can justify. But I think it's worth noting there are some legitimate criticisms I've heard recently about conservatives where it's, you know, that we've abandoned basically everything we were asking for when we voted for Trump. And this is what a lot of the guys that were anti-Trump to begin with, you know, they were anti-Trump Republicans to begin with, but they claim that, you know, they like to claim, well, I was with him until, but there are certain things like the bombing of Iran and you know, taking Maduro and things like that, that generally speaking go against my my principles, right? I don't want us getting involved in any war. That hasn't changed. It's not that I didn't, and I'm okay with it now. I don't want us getting involved in another war. I don't want us, you know, meddling in foreign affairs and all of these things, right? But that doesn't, and spending is another thing, right? I want spending cut. But first of all, that's not a Trump thing. That's a Congress thing. I can't take it out on Trump that spending hasn't been cut. Anybody that thought Trump could cut spending apparently doesn't know how the system works. But aside from that, I'm not going to fault Trump that spending hasn't been cut yet, because I understand you can't do everything all at once, especially when you have such a useless Congress. There's nothing he can do to cut spending besides demand Congress cut spending. And if we're going to spend this money, I would prefer it to be spent in a way that benefits Americans, which overwhelmingly, in my opinion, Trump has done, which is why I'm not immediately opposed to it. Even though I don't like it, right? I don't like that he's still spending this much money. But if we were going to spend the money anyway, and if we are spending it, we might as well be spending it in a way that at least benefits us, rather than benefits the Democrat Party and the rest of the world, essentially. And as far as, you know, the going to war thing, right? No, I'm not in favor of starting new engagements and stuff. However, Trump has proved a competency in these foreign affairs that all of our other presidents, all of them, to be clear, not just some, but all of them going back well over 100 years now, or close to it, have proven to be totally incompetent on. Trump has proven himself a competency that has given me that has earned from me a leeway that no other president has earned from me before. And he's looking at a situation that I also feel is important, which is preventing World War III, right? And I think really this is where Trump excels. And I think that his focus on some other things that he doesn't really excel at, which is kind of what he tried to do in his first administration, was the wrong approach. Because it turns out dealing with these foreign leaders and in these foreign affairs, things that we've been battling forever, like this Venezuela thing, goes back 50 years. This is not something Trump just did out of the blue. This is something multiple presidents have tried to deal with, and it couldn't find a solution to. Trump took care of it in 24 hours. The problem is damn near solved. I mean, you still have what's going to happen going forward, and that's not nothing, but so far it's been good. And the biggest issue was taken care of in 24 hours. With Iran, I didn't want anything that was going to drag us into another war. He swore it wasn't going to. He was right. Now, there's new problems with Iran. I'm willing to give him the leeway to deal with those problems so long as it doesn't drag us into another war. And so the criticisms are fair if you are just looking at it critically and going, well, you said you were this, but now you're okay with this. But the reason that I'm willing to give some leeway is because Trump has earned that leeway in regards to these specific things. And when it comes to the budget, for example, he hasn't necessarily earned leeway with me, but I recognize that it is not something that he can do without Congress. And as long as Congress isn't on board, we're at least spending the money in a way that is benefiting America, that is benefiting Americans.
Yeah. Exactly.
Basically, I understand that Trump can't literally do everything. And so, while I might not be okay with certain things he hasn't fixed yet, it's not as if he's spending more money than ever before. He's just continuing the spending. And so, I'm not okay with that. But I wouldn't be okay with that with anybody. And he is fixing these other things. So, okay, we can do this part, next or whatever, as long as it's there on the list. It's been a year. Anyone that expected him to fix all this in a year is retarded. Sorry for saying the R word on your stream.
I'm not on TikTok, so it doesn't matter.
Oh,
I've said it multiple times. But yeah, the thing is, a lot of this is going to take a lot of time to get done. And we've elected Trump to do it for 4 years. And that's all he has. If the 2028 thing's real or not, principally, I would never vote for him if he ran for a third term. But if it happens, we'll just have to cross that when it gets there. I don't really like them bringing it up.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like, I think he's going to become some sort of dictator? No. Do I think that maybe he might find some way that he can run for a third term? Sure, that's in a possibility that he might try to run. I don't think he's going to take over the government and say that we won't have elections anymore, blah, blah, blah. But we need to give Trump some time. And I feel like we're trying to debate a lot of the things that Trump is doing right now, that are happening right now, as if it's been like a whole nother presidential term since he's been out of office, and it's happening right now. We need to give it time to work its way out.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the, talking about a third term thing. I don't mind that they joke about that. Would I be a little more concerned if it was a Democrat joking about it? Yeah, I would. But I also, I also wouldn't be screaming that they deserve impeachment because they made jokes about it. if that person acts like Trump does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trump is joking about it because it pisses you guys off. That's why he's joking about it. And when you've taken 2 shots at a guy, when you've attacked his supporters in the street, when you've done everything that the left has done over the last 10 years, I don't give a shit that he pokes fun at you. I don't. I'm sorry. Like, you want me to be upset about that? I'm not. We didn't take 2 shots at your guy. You took 2 shots at our guy. I'm perfectly okay with the fact that he says things just to piss you off. But aside from that, I absolutely will not support him running for a 3rd term. Now, if they tried to make the constitutional argument, because this is what the claim is, right? The Constitution doesn't say you can only hold 2 terms in office. The Constitution says you can only hold 2 consecutive terms in office. That's what the claim is. So because there was a gap between it, he's saying, well, it doesn't say you can't hold 3 terms. It just says you can't hold more than 2 consecutive. If we want to go on that technicality, fine. But I want something done to reaffirm the fact that either this is the new rule or we fix the rule to be what we all interpreted it to mean. This problem hasn't come up, and so it's just never been an issue because every president just went 2 consecutive terms or lost after their 1st term and never won again.
Yeah.
So the problem hasn't come up, and just because it hasn't come up doesn't mean that what he's trying to do is illegal. It just means it hasn't been an issue yet. And I understand why leftists would be pissed about that, but I care that we are following the Constitution. And if the Constitution, if that is how it's worded, which it is, then okay, change the Constitution if you don't want Trump to have a 3rd term. I won't be opposed. If Democrats introduce a bill for a constitutional amendment to clarify that, tomorrow, I will support that amendment, as long as there's not a bunch of other crap tacked in there, of course. But if it's just that alone, I'll support that amendment. But if you don't do that, then, the law says what it says and it doesn't say what it doesn't say. And even though I might not love it, as long as we're following the law, I can't condemn it.
Yep. All right, let's wrap this up. I need to get going.
Sounds good. You want me to give
Tell
my
'em,
spiel first?
Tell them where tell my viewers this time where they can find you.
All right. You can find me at x.com/JBU_show. We live stream to X, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch. You can find the audio podcast anywhere that audio podcasts are available. And you can find all the links for the show, the audio archive, and all of that at anchor.fm/JBU. Austin, I appreciate you having me on. Sorry I took over your debate.
It was a fun debate. This is an unusual day for me to stream, but I also stream to Twitch, X, Rumble, Substack, and TikTok,
Once
except
every
for I
3
usually get
days.
suspended every couple of days. So most of the time, those are the places I stream to. You can find me millertalk.substack.com, millertalk_pod on X and Threads, Miller Talk everywhere else. Main hub for the podcast is Miller Talk. This is a viewer-supported show, so if you like what's going on here and you'd like to further our careers here, you can subscribe on Substack for $5 a month or $45 for the whole year, and you become the first Miller Talk member. So, anything else, Chris?
Yeah, don't forget to check out at FirstAllan2, x.com/FirstAllan2, our co-host, Allan, the American Sincerest podcast, which he hosts on X on weekdays. He doesn't necessarily have a set time, but you can go to his profile and follow him, and you'll know when he goes live and does that as well. And then you can
And
find
if
him
you'd
on.
like to find John, he's on Threads at I am John Ivory.
And you can find
And
all of
thank
us.
him again for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say the same. Thank you, John, for the conversation. I very much appreciate that we were able to have any conversation at all, but especially a heated but respectful one. And that you're willing to come back again. You can find all three of us both on the Miller Talk podcast stream and the JBU.Show stream Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well for the weekend show. That is the only show that we guarantee, basically. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's usually late night Friday and Saturday, and then earlier in the day on Sunday. Go follow the X pages, and you'll find out exactly when and where to find us. All right, that's all I got.
Guys, thanks to everyone who tuned in. We love you.
Absolutely. For my audience, I'm not going to be doing an outro here, so I'm just going to cut it off right like